Tony Xue from Hong Kong Baptist University.
And I'm Nicole Ko. Our theme this year, The Voice of Generation Z in Climate Change. We have stories on young people cleaning up the environment, how unpredictable weather impacts on people's life, and how to change your shopping habits in order to save our planet.
But of course, producing this year's GNR has been a challenge for everyone because of the pandemic. The funny thing is, we are all alone together. And here on Global News Relay, we have been reaching out to journalism students around the world online for years already.
Over the next couple of hours, we will hear from 11 universities from around the world on this year's theme. We will start here at Hong Kong Baptist University. Our host this year is Moon Lam.
Hello and welcome to Hong Kong Baptist University and to TYR TV, the news channel of our journalism magazine. I am Moon Lam. The Hong Kong government has been trying to promote ecotourism to get people to appreciate nature. But some of the tour guides have the reservation on whether that's a good idea. I joined one such tour earlier to find out why.
Getting in touch with nature. Women talking about farming and learning where our organic vegetables come from. It is all part of an eco-tour, which costs around 200 to 300 Hong Kong dollars. That is 25 to 38 US dollars. Eco-tour have different themes, including connecting to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and exploring marine life. The idea is to help town folks appreciate our environment and the impact of climate change while participating in a full-day tour to the outlying islands, such as Mui Wo.
For the tour, it's more experiential, I think, but I do think, especially with Hong Kong right now, with the virus, an eco-tour is good because people can get out and they can still do something and learn something. Everything's changing, glaciers are melting, so this is why I wanted to come along and show some of my support for the eco-warriors of Hong Kong.
In the eco-tours, participants pick the calendula for the farmers, so to refine oil. Also, journers can taste organic vegetables, visit farms, visit bat cave, and hike. The Hong Kong government spent 15 million Hong Kong dollars last year to promote such eco-tours. And since the start of the coronavirus outbreak, spending time in the countryside has become increasingly popular. But the organizers have their reservations.
The government so far, when they promote the eco-tour, they stress a lot about the tour part, but not enough on the eco part. And for example, in the marine park, there's certain behavior like some people in the marine park, they see a sea star or see a shell, they're very excited to take home, and you're not supposed to do that.
So the tour guide said that the best way to get people to love the environment is setting restriction on the numbers of visitors. It may actually be holding back on development and giving Mother Nature room to breathe.
Veganism is increasingly accepted as a modern lifestyle in Hong Kong. Some young people become vegan, hoping they can help the planet. Nicole Ko has the story.
Vegan products such as Omni Pork are increasingly popular in supermarkets around Hong Kong. According to a local advocate group, Green Monday, 3.7% of the people in the city are vegans. Yuki Lam is one of them.
我唔食紅肉咯，唔食咗10年嘅時間啦。如果真係有牛味嘅話咧，我試一出我會掠翻出嚟。點講咧？一開始係宗教原因啦。中學嗰段時間開始唔食嘅，因為我之前喺度 job 假嘅，跟住就覺得即係其實唔食原來好多好處，即係包括環保原因啦。即係你讀 job 假，你會知道其實牛係排放甲烷，對環境嗰個破壞係好嚴重。
Planet for All and Fact Society are promoting plant-based diets in Hong Kong.
食肉嘅背後咧，其實係多嘅污染嘅。估計大約17%度咧，溫室氣體嘅排放咧係由畜業造成，係比全球所有交通工具加埋都仲要多嘅。
其實你要用咁多能源去換一磅嘅牛肉翻嚟，同你用同樣嘅能源可以換到更加多嘅蔬菜或者穀物翻嚟。如果你將嗰個資源去種植咗啲蔬菜穀物嘅話，你係可以維持翻喺饑荒裏邊嘅人。
Dora thinks that there are more young people willing to become vegans because of environmental reasons now.
近幾年有 social media 嘅幫助啦，好多人了解到其實食肉工業背後比我哋想象中係殘忍好多嘅，亦都有好多環保嘅資訊湧入嚟啦，變咗青人多啲，佢哋會去考慮去愛呢個地球，去愛嗰啲動物嘅時候咧，佢哋願意去作出改變咯。即係依家係明顯係年輕化咗好多。
There are also more clearer guidance for vegans in Hong Kong now.
近幾年，我覺得都多咗餐廳會標明個食物入邊嘅成分，即係你見到啲連鎖餐廳佢會一個菜式界有啲 logo， 即係有個牛嘅標誌，即係註明碟菜式係有牛，咁我就會一定唔揀嗰啲菜式。
She hopes more people can understand that meat is replaceable and will turn vegan.
Hong Kong Baptist University runs a Green Campus program. The aim is to educate students on a sustainable lifestyle. Sammy Mo takes us on a tour of the campus to check out some of the features of this program.
The founding father of China, Dr. Sun Yat-sen, stands in a green corner of the campus. Such green spaces are hard to come by in a concrete jungle like Hong Kong. But this is part of the effort by the Hong Kong Baptist University Sustainability Program to raise awareness of a low-carbon lifestyle. There are recycling bins of every kind around the campus. And right next to these bins is a drinking water fountain. There is no bottled water being sold on campus. This escalator only starts if there are people on it. It has sensors that detect users so that it does not waste any energy when it is not in use. Better still, use a little muscle power. The slogan here, 1 floor up, 2 floors down.
Sometimes I'll use the stairs when I only need to go up or down for 1 to 2 floors.
There are automatic control panels like this outside every classroom. The lights and the air conditioners automatically turn on 15 minutes before the start of a class. There's power saving in the toilets as well. The lights come on only if there is someone in the room. And for years, the school has done away with paper towels. Water flow controllers are installed in every water tank to reduce the use of water. Last year, a new short initiative also kicked in. This on top of the recyclable takeaway boxes. The low-carbon initiative is supposed to go hand in hand with the college's aim of whole-person education. That basic lifestyle changes can make a whole lot of difference for the future.
Hong Kong developed from a fishing village into a prosperous city over the past 2 centuries. But that traditional way of life is under threat because of climate change. Kylan Goh has the story.
Fishing has been a way of life here in Taiwan for hundreds of years. The crabs, fish, and shrimps are plucked right out of the water and sold on shore, often to the many seafood restaurants nearby. But that way of life is under threat due to climate change. Len Cumming has been a fisherman all his life.
差咗啦，就同呢個50年前嗰下都起碼冇咗80%。
According to the Hong Kong Observatory, the annual average temperature has increased by 1.2 degrees Celsius from 22.7 to 23.9.
Fish and other organisms in the sea will respond directly to temperature, so their development will change. The eggs might hatch faster. They might develop through juvenile stages more quickly, and that'll alter the behavior of the fish. So the seasons might change. That climate change is caused by the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, right? That's as a greenhouse gas. The other thing that carbon dioxide does is it dissolves in the sea, and it makes the sea more acid. Okay, so the pH of the sea drops, and that because a lot of the sea creatures, their skeletons are made out of things that are sensitive to acid. So the exoskeletons of many mollusks, even the bones of some fish, and the larval stages of fish are very sensitive to changes in the acidity of the sea.
Hong Mei Ho grew up in a fishing family, but nowadays she runs a dried goods stall.
20幾年冇過魚，成30年都有啦。個天氣而家攞魚係越嚟越困難啊！以前攞魚啊，車開嗰度啲潮法啊，尾滿滿啊，而家啊幾耐都攞唔到條啊！
Trawlers like these used to bring in tons of fish every day, and that's what enabled villages like Tai O to thrive. But as the fishing force hold out yet another net of disappointment, they know that the way they grew up is now just a tourist curio into a glorious past.
Hong Kong beverage company Vitasoy has introduced a scheme to teach kids how to recycle their drinks cartons. The company is collaborating with a local pulp mill to turn juice boxes into recycled paper products. Clara Yip and Eunice Lam report.
These kids are learning how to recycle their drink packets into something useful. It's part of Vitasol's Beverage Carton Clean Recycling Education Program launched last October. According to environmentalist group Green Power, more than 24,000 tons of drink cartons are thrown away in Hong Kong every year. Most of them end up in landfills, many of which are near full capacity. Dorcas Lau, CEO of Vitasol Hong Kong, said there are now about 90 collection points, mainly located at schools.
In general, a reverse vending machine does a lot to raise awareness. It highlights to people because people are attracted to the machine, and so it makes them understand that there is a system. Because if somebody's actually going to pay for that bottle or give you an incentive to return it, whether it's a coupon or money or a gift, it must be valuable.
Vitasol is working with Hong Kong's first pulp manufacturer, Mill. Here, the paper fibers are extracted from the beverage cartons. The pulp is then exported to other countries to produce recycled paper products. Following Vitasol's success, other organizations have started to build their own cartons recycling programs. Green Power Hong Kong has also introduced a cash reward scheme this month. Customers can get 8 cents for every carton they put into the recycling scheme.
Hong Kong's neon lights across the city might have earned its reputation of the Pearl of the Orient, but local people complain how light pollution is affecting their health. Leon Yishu, USU, and Ryerson has their story.
The Symphony of Lights show flashes across Hong Kong's Victoria Harbour every evening. It's meant to show off the vibrancy of a prosperous city. But while behind the glitter are countless residents who suffer the effects of light pollution.
即係有陣時你太光嘅話，其實你住喺附近嘅居民其實係好難，即係可以瞓覺咯，同埋會好影響到佢哋睡眠質素。
即係假設如果喺呢一度旺角中心上面有人住嘅話，咁咪會影響啲人。瞓唔到覺咯，因為太光。咁你平時有冇啲咩習慣去避免去產生呢個光污染嘅問題咧？可能出街嘅時候會閂燈咯，即係冇需要嘅時候都會熄晒啲燈咯。
避免唔到嘅，講真，外牆係有業主噶嘛。咁如果喺人哋要租俾做招牌嘅，其實你就算一個單一業主，你好難做嘢嘅。
Lights affect people, and in fact, a great deal, because of for example, this chemical called melatonin that is generated in our body because of this day-night day-night cycle. So these chemicals, help us to adjust to this 24-hour cycle of the day for humans. Now, the presence of light night certainly affects the production of these melatonin in our body.
5 years ago, the government introduced a charter on external lighting, in which businesses volunteer to turn off their lights by 11 p.m. But the Green Earth has found that of the businesses that signed up to the charter, only 78 of those across the Victoria Harbour actually keep to their promises to turn off the lights. And in Mongkok, that's only 74%.
We suggest at this moment, the time schedule is one very important way to to the charter to urge the owners to turn off the light on a certain period of time. But we also suggest the government should control their time on turning on, not turning off. Because in Hong Kong, you can see that lighting is on very early in the morning, like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. It is a wastage of the energy.
Hong Kong's country park has become very popular in recent months as people try to get away from the crowded cities to avoid the coronavirus. But that has created new problems. A group of young people then decided to take matters into their own hands. Carol Mang has the story.
Hiking has become a favorite activity for many Hong Kongers since the coronavirus outbreak started. People pack on the hills here at Ma On Shan Country Park most weekends. Masks have been ubiquitous on many Hong Kong people's faces since the start of the epidemic. But with more hikers comes this, masks and other rubbish littering the hillside.
我哋經常行山嘅人，望到個山上邊有咁多嗰啲紙巾啊，嗰啲糖啊、零食啊、包裝啊，或者而家多咗咁多口罩，梗係覺得唔係幾舒服嘅。
A group of young people took the initiative to clean the mountain up, and today they're picking up trash at a hill near their homes.
We are a group of youngsters who live in Mount Shan, and our name is DEMOS. And our aim today is to pick up all the rubbish we see on the road from this village and all the way up to the mountain. And after around 1 hour, we have accumulated bags of rubbish already. So you can see it's a very big problem we're facing right now.
Probably because of the hikers, they are not really aware of protecting the environment and polluting the land, and they don't have the awareness. So I think that's because they dump rubbish in right here. Yeah.
Always keep hands clean and wash hands.
The Hong Kong government has been encouraging people to stay clean in order to stay clear of infection during the epidemic. And these young people say more should be done.
Probably do more advertisements, and also I think if they really care about this land, they should send some people to come up and clean it.
That is actually quite disappointing because as promoted by the government for quite some times, for your own rubbish, you should bring it back to wherever it belongs to.
They say keeping the environment clean should be part of the fight against the virus.
That's all from us here at Hong Kong Baptist University. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and stay safe.
It's Sunday, April 26, 2020. This is Global News Relay 2020, broadcasted from Indonesia, and I'm Fancy Anastasia. Climate change has tremendously affected the world, including Indonesia. Natural disasters such as heavy rainfall, heat waves, and even the growth of infrastructure has contributed in affecting both the climate and Jakarta.
Climate change is the increase in the frequency of extreme weather events all over the globe. Jakarta is a large city in Indonesia. In the last 15 years, the population has increased dramatically. Rapid growth put extreme stress on existing infrastructure. Climate change will have tremendous consequences for 21st century Jakarta. Climate change and Jakarta.
Simpelnya ya, yang gue tahu perubahan cuaca.
Kalau menurut gue sih climate change itu kayak sekarang nih iklim yang udah nggak bisa ditebak lagi.
Dari aktivitas yang gue lakuin, tiap harinya itu cuaca suka berubah. Hari ini panas, besok hujan. Nah, itu perubahan cuaca itu sih yang gue rasain. Maksudnya ya itu sering terjadi.
Musim hujan, musim kemarau tuh jadi nggak keprediksi, terus cuaca tuh berubahnya ekstrim banget kan akhir-akhir ini.
Polusi udara inilah penyebab dari perubahan cuaca ini gitu. Kalau hubungannya itu berarti dia akibat dari polusi udara. Ya penyebab dari polusi udara itu ya kalau kita telaah juga itu dari kendaraan bermotor, mobil segala macam. Ya orang-orang pada suka pakai kendaraan pribadi, itu menambah polusi di kota Jakarta khususnya.
Tumbuhan di pinggir jalan, terus kita juga harus mengurangi kayak kendaraan gitu, jangan apa-apa bawa kendaraan, kan banyak kayak misalkan yang lebih ramah lingkungan lah kayak naik sepeda atau gimana gitu kan.
Upayanya tuh kita banyak-banyak hemat listrik, hemat air, terus kurang-kurangin sampah plastik, terus kayak go green, reboisasi gitu-gitu.
Intinya gue udah mulai sadar ternyata sampah itu sangat merugikan juga buat kita sendiri, buat negara juga, buat lingkungan sekitar juga. Kalau gue sendiri ya contohnya ya penyakit jadi lebih banyak juga. Terus kalau bagi negara kita menjadi kotor. Kalau untuk lingkungan pasti banyak negatifnya kayak nggak enak dilihat atau malu juga misalkan ada turis yang datang ke Indo, sampah berserakan di mana-mana. Kita juga harus sadar sendiri juga sih.
Later in this program, we will find out more about a local cafe, how they dedicated themselves, contributed in fighting the climate. Alright, after this commercial break.
BINUS TV adalah media televisi komunitas yang dipersembahkan oleh Bina Nusantara Group. Dalam menghadapi perkembangan revolusi industri 4.0, kami hadir untuk menjadi media komunikasi utama dari Bina Nusantara Group yang berbasiskan teknologi informasi. Divisi Produksi dan News berkontribusi dalam konten program-program BINUS TV yang didukung oleh Divisi Operasional serta Divisi Marketing. Untuk menyaksikan program-program kami, Anda dapat mengaksesnya di www.binus.tv. BINUS TV juga dapat diakses secara cuma-cuma melalui Google Play dan juga App Store.
You're still watching Global News Relay. Next news comes from capital city of Jakarta, Sal & Co., a cafe that incorporated a Go Green team are dedicated to not serve their food and beverages using plastic ever again.
Tingkat perubahan iklim di Indonesia sekarang ini sangat memprihatinkan. Banyaknya sampah plastik yang berserakan di jalanan-jalanan di daerah rumah-rumah atau komplek-komplek. Menurut saya tentang kafe ini itu konsepnya bagus, desainnya juga menarik. Terlebih lagi di sini makanannya juga mengandung buah-buahan sehingga sehat untuk dikonsumsinya. Terus juga kalau misalkan kita take away, kita juga bawanya bukan plastik biasa. Terlebih lagi plastik berbahan dasar singkong.
Pendapat mengenai kafe ini bagus, soalnya dia pakai plastik itu dia dari cassava, dari singkong, jadi mudah banget untuk terurai. Gak kayak plastik kantong yang biasa belanja ke pasar.
Belakang kenapa kita memutuskan untuk tidak pakai plastik pada kafe ini, sebenarnya itu nggak menjadi salah satu kafe yang nggak pakai plastik lagi gitu. Udah akhirnya jalan udah hampir 1 tahun lebih, dampak positif lah untuk lingkungan itu sih. Terus kita sering ikut bazar, di bazar itu banyak banget orang-orang yang senang karena kita nggak pakai plastik. Jadi kita pakai plastik yang dibuat dari singkong, packaging kita juga dari singkong, packaging pokeball, packaging smoothies pakai plastik dari cassava. Motivasinya sih sebenarnya untuk mengajak orang-orang mengurangi sampah plastik. Kalau misalnya di Jakarta kan masih dikit banget nih. Restoran kan salah satu bisnis yang jalan terus, nggak ada yang mulai untuk jadi contoh. Kenapa kita nggak duluan?
Still with us, our last news come from Muslim Fashion Week 2020 about the highlights of the show. So stay tuned after the commercial break.
BINA Nusantara Group actively shapes this vibrant region, offering education of an international standard through BINUS primary and secondary schools and BINUS higher education systems. Serving the community across the archipelago and beyond. BINUS. Fostering and empowering the society in building and serving the nation. BINUS University.
This is Global News Relay coming to you from Jakarta. The 5th annual Muslim Fashion Festival ended on Sunday. Muslim Fashion Fest were being held for 4 days, exactly on 20 February until 23rd February 2020. This event has become a movement to be more conscious for environment in terms of clothing.
Sustainable clothing has become a movement to be more conscious of our environment in terms of clothing, has become popular considering fashion industry contributed to pollution and negative effect for the climate. Without even mentioning the resources that were used to produce a mass amount of clothing. With consumption of Muslim fashion in Indonesia every year grows approximately 18% each year. Plenty of designer and Muslim fashion industry has joined MUFES. MUFES has become a platform for all the designer in Muslim fashion industry to meet with each other. Some of the designers that were showcasing their designs were Nunik Mawardi, Monica Jufri, Ria Miranda, Ivan Gunawan, Rani Hatta, and many more. One of the goals for MUFES this year is to raise awareness for the public to be more conscious about our surroundings, lifestyle, especially how it correlates with the environment. MUFES tries to promote this awareness with campaigns and promotion, or a more direct way as such as support of upcycling, recycling, redesign, zero waste that going to be the highlight of the show. This year, the festival that was being held at Jakarta Convention Center featured around 400 tenants. Tenants that set up shops for modest fashion enthusiasts and place a renewed focus on sustainability in fashion alongside the usual trends that come and go according to the season that the fashion sets. Every year, MUFES has shown increase in total of visitors and transactions made in MUFES. For this year, the event has targeted 55,000 visitors and a total of transactions made for 43 billion rupiah. Indonesia Minister of Cooperative and Small and Medium Enterprise Teten Mas Duki was present in the opening ceremony of MUFES 2020, highlighting the role of fashion industry in driving change through environmental friendly practice. He stated that Muslim fashion industry in Indonesia are experiencing rapid growth. He was sure that Indonesia will be a trend center in Muslim fashion industry in the future. He also stated that Jokowi, Indonesia's president, has long asked for an event in Indonesia that can be put in the world event calendar. Evidentially, more designers have tried to limit and reduction waste such as fabric or fabric dyeing waste. The commitments for the fashion industry have proved to become more environmental friendly and hope for a better future. One of the proven ways of designers have tried in limiting pollutants from the fashion industry by reducing the use of polyester. Studies have shown that microplastic that being shed from synthetic fabrics during the wash cycle and end up in the ocean. Riau-based Vicos Rayon producer Asia Pacific Rayon or APR returned for its second year at MUFES, collaborating with several designers who use the company's biodegradable fabrics for the latest collection. APR has joined hands with some of the designers that attended MUFES. In MUFES 2020, APR joined hands with AM by Anggia Sari and Aninda Nasmi in showcasing their designs for the opening ceremony. A dedicated APR segment was staged on Friday, featuring top designers Deden Siswanto, Sukriya Rusdi, and lyricist Eugene Affected and Rosie Rahmadi. Both Deden and Eugene Affectes collaborated with famous Muslim sarung brand Gajah Duduk, but both made with different styles. Deden took inspiration from the nomadic people of Senegal, with layers of different patterns that normally be worn to ward off the heat and sand. He joked during the press conference that nomadic people have similar styles to Indonesian, in a way where we wear sarung as well. The silhouettes are mainly loose so it can hide the girth. Another highlight from MUFES was Sukriya Insomnia-inspired collection, which featured dramatic flowing outerwear and pillow-shaped bags that are rather Balenciaga's-esque in their own cheekiness.
Well, that's it for Global News Relay 2020. I'm Fancy Anastasia, the whole team and ourselves. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.
Hi, Fancy.
Hello?
Yeah, so Fancy, about that cafe you guys reported on, I want to know about being more environmentally friendly impacts on their cost and profit.
Of course, it will impact because on economic level, they have to search for affordable alternative, and that's not cheap because the way of usually people are only using plastic because it was cheap, it was easy to get, but now they have to seek for alternative that's also affordable. So of course it was more pricey, but we can see it from another view. They save money by investing in their utensils. Like if they use plastic, can only be used single use, but now they can use it for a long term, like the straws, the package and stuff. So it's eco-friendly, and it also boosts the restaurant. Like it boosts how the restaurant is very concerned towards the climate, and now people are more aware of the climate change, right? So they're like, oh, this cafe is actually economic friendly, let's support this cafe. So yeah, it boosts her relationship in a sense. So yeah, I think it's the positive and the negative.
Yeah, so on environmentally friendly fashion, some of the major fashion chains around the world try to play their part by encouraging recycling of old clothes or even repairing clothes when they fall apart. In Indonesia, other than high-end fashion, are there any initiatives to improve the sustainability of the fashion industry?
Yes, of course. When I view it from the local store, like the local fashion industry, it actually has focused on sustainable lifestyle. Like they're using this eco-friendly fabrics. The waste of fabrics will be reused again for pouches and stuff. Yeah, it has certainly moved to a better way, and they also, like my generation is also concerned with the fashion industry, that we have this social movement called thrift shopping. So mostly my generation support the climate change by shopping that used clothes. Not only it was climate friendly, but it also way cheaper.
Thank you, Fancy.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, so next up, we have the Asian College of Journalism in Chennai in India. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So actually, what are the implications of COVID-19 on India's national agenda for sustainable development and climate change?
I think this has been a very important topic for India, and my friend Rahil would be better able to explain this topic.
Right. So the thing is, I think it's really important for us to acknowledge that the Indian economy was suffering in a big way even before COVID came along. And what's been in the past 2 months, in fact, has been a nationwide lockdown. So what that means that our factories have shut down, large parts of the industry have stopped producing, and thus obviously the effect of that has been that our economy is crippled more than it was before COVID-19 happened at all. So it's safe to assume that once we come out of this, sustainability projects will probably be on the back burner. But one sort of upside of this is that there is this changing sort of sentiment nationwide where regular people are realizing that the government has to invest more in healthcare. And the government then will be encouraged to invest in protecting its citizens. And that would mean intervening in climate change, ensuring cleaner air, ensuring better healthcare systems. So, I mean, in the long run, I suppose this could work out either way, but we can just hope for the best.
I see. So India has been under lockdown since March, right? Has that made a change to pollution levels in the country?
First of all, I would like to say there is no doubt about the fact that we are living in troubled times since the COVID-19 outbreak, and very few good things are happening. Very few good things have happened in the past couple of days. And one of the few good things is the reduction in pollution levels, the reduction in air pollution levels across the country, or rather, I should say across the globe. And it is specifically the reduction in pollution levels in India is specifically important because out of the 30 most polluted cities in the world, India has 21 of them. So air pollution is a big problem in India, and millions of people are choking on the poor air quality every year. So because of the strict lockdown that has been imposed, there are a lot of industrial activities which have been shut. The cars are not on the streets anymore. People have been asked to stay at home. And because of this, the air pollution levels across the country have reduced a lot. Specifically, if we look at Delhi, the capital of India, which also happens to be one of the most polluted cities in the world, the air quality index of Delhi drastically reduced to 46 from 154 in the second and third week of lockdown, which is a big achievement for Delhi. It has never been able to do this. And Ghaziabad, which is the most polluted city in the world, and therefore also in India, has witnessed a 65% reduction in the particulate matter 2.5. So I think these are big things, and we should be thankful for the reduction in pollution levels that have happened because of the COVID-19 outbreak. And I hope that the reduction in pollution levels continue even after the lockdown ends, and it does not stop after the lockdown. I hope we can do something about it. We even have some graphs about that. I would like to show you some pictures. If Rahil is there, I would like her to share the screen.
Share the screen.
Yeah, so this is an image that was sourced from Guardian, and it's about the Connaught Place, a very prime location in Delhi. And this is how the Connaught Place looked before the lockdown. And now I'll show you how it looks after the lockdown. Yeah, so as you can see, the sky is very clear. And another image that we have is of India Gate, which is one of the most popular places in India. This is the amount of fog we had at India Gate before COVID-19. And this is how it looks now. So this is just to establish the reduction in air pollution levels across the country. Thank you.
I see. Okay, so climate change and extreme weather conditions obviously affect agriculture, but how has that affected farmers in India this year?
Right. Actually, it's interesting that you asked that because towards the beginning of 2020, I think one piece of really good news that we got from the Indian Meteorological Department was that we could expect regular normal rainfall this year. And that's, again, like you said, there were extreme weather conditions last year. So that was definitely good news. But then March came along and we saw really heavy rainfalls across India. And with that came damage to a vast amount of our farmlands. So in fact, if I look at data here, it says that there was 77% more rain more rain according to the IMD on March 19th. So up to as much as 4 lakh hectare of farmland was damaged in the process. And again, like I said earlier, we are in the midst of a nationwide lockdown, which means that there is heavy restriction on transportation in the country. So as a result, there was also a worry about a sort of seed crisis for farmers, because there wasn't transportation to bring seeds in for farmers to sow. So overall, we can see that the people who are worst affected by this lockdown are migrant workers, are agricultural workers, farmers, people involved in agriculture and labor work. So it is definitely a very concerning sort of trend that we're seeing here. And sort of catching up once this is over will definitely be quite a struggle, but we'll have to see what happens.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have Coventry University from the UK.
Thank you. This is Coventry's News Relay. I am Kurt Meddy.
And I'm Agata Slowinska, and this year's theme is on climate change.
That's right, Aggie. And coming up, we have a piece about HS2 and the implications it has on the people and environment as well.
And one of our reporters has been looking at Gen Z activists in Birmingham and has witnessed their efforts to protect our planet firsthand with strike action that was held in February 2020. In another story, Coventry University is concerned about the environment and is now having an annual Green Week.
Last but not least, we cover an unusual story here in Coventry, a funeral in the city centre held for all of the trees that have been chopped down to make way for new renovations.
In 2010, the British government proposed the construction of a new high-speed train line that would build the infrastructure and link 21 destinations in the UK. The government and the HS2 Limited acknowledge that the route can't be delivered without extreme harm to the natural environment, but have pledged no net loss for wildlife, a policy aiming to prevent an offset for damage caused by human activity.
On Tuesday, 4th February 2020, representatives from the Wildlife Trust presented a letter to the Prime Minister, signed by over 66,000 supporters, asking him to stop and rethink HS2. Despite this, on the 11th of February, the Prime Minister announced that after careful consideration, the decision has been taken to proceed with HS2. Leanne Kate reports.
The controversy over the planned high-speed rail link HS2 has been headlining in the UK for a decade now. The Oakervie review of HS2 in December 2019 concluded that the high-speed rail link could help deliver the government's commitment to bring greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2050. On the 15th of February, HS2 Limited revised their existing environmental policy. HS2 told us, "We updated HS2's environmental policy to more clearly communicate our environmental objectives. We haven't changed any of our commitments to our environmental protection." As HS2 is a major development, the Wildlife Trust has commissioned the first comprehensive assessment of the risks to environmental damage. We spoke with Wildlife Trust CEO Ed Green about the report.
HS2 will result in considerable loss of wildlife, and it will permanently structurally alter the natural environment in England. It's going to establish a barrier for most species who rely on ecological connectivity from one side of the line to the other. Where HS2 say that they're going to produce no net loss, there are various ways of measuring that. HS2 has been given permission to come up with its own system, and lo and behold, in its own system that it chooses to use, it comes out with a net loss. The easiest way of explaining how HS2's process is flawed is that it doesn't take into account ancient woodland. And because you can't replace it, it's discounted from the metric they use to measure the impact on the environment. For HS2 to say that it's going to have no net loss on the environment is quite frankly absurd.
What do residents in Warwickshire feel about the environmental impact on where they live?
Obviously, I would rather that they certainly didn't bring down ancient trees, and I would imagine that some species will thrive, some species may never recover along that route. We should be looking at what we're going to be providing for the younger generation.
I think first of all, HS2 Limited are very, very clear about the environmental impact and therefore the mitigations that they can put in place. And if anyone takes the time to read their reports that are on their website.
I mean, the railway system we have now has been in use for
at least 100 years. Anything else we build today, it's likely to last a similar amount of time. So, the damage is perfectly acceptable in my view. And I think they have done a lot to mitigate it. As it's been rerouted and into tunnels, into cuttings.
After 10 years of fighting it and going to Parliament and petitioning and, oh, goodness knows what, endless meetings. The bluebells in spring, you can feel that you're in an ancient woodland. You can feel that you're in a place that's so old and so mature, and it's going. Should I look upon it as saying, oh, okay, it's bringing jobs to the area and it's improving the economy, and I get we need to update our railways. I just wish that they'd come out of Westminster Village and have a look what it's doing to the local environment and how it's affecting the wildlife.
What is clear, and supported by both sides of the argument, is that HS2 will have an impact on the UK's environment. With population growth and government commitment to net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, expanding the railways can be one option in keeping commuters and freight off the roads to reduce carbon emissions. Whether or not HS2 is deemed the right answer will continue to be debated.
Thank you, Leanne. It is certainly a debate that will continue right up until the project is either complete or scrapped.
That's right, Aggie. And even after the project, we will still see discussions held over the value of the project and whether HS2 will reap more benefits than the controversy it has already attracted.
Certainly one to keep an eye out for. And now for the next story, our reporter Antonia Trevini has been on the scene of the protest of Generation Z environmental activists in Birmingham.
The group celebrated a year of activism with their first 2020 strike. Dozens gathered to join them in the streets of Birmingham city centre to listen to their cause. Now to Antonia for more.
What do we want? Climate action! When do we want it? Now! Hello, Birmingham!
They call them Generation Z, but they don't like the idea of being the last generation on Earth. That's why Birmingham Youth Strike for Climate have been fighting for climate justice for over a year now. The group celebrated a year of activism with their first 2020 strike. In dozens gathered to join them in the streets of Birmingham city centre, regardless of the cold, and to listen their voices.
Recently, people have believed that fickle promises of a climate future where our planet isn't being poisoned will shut us up. Will it shut us up, guys? Yeah! People from all ages, all creeds, here to show that we're not just going to sit back and watch our planet be destroyed. We're here, we're living here, and we're going to tell all of the little big old giants in HSBC that we will not be moved.
Since the group started to be active in Birmingham, they reached the support of over 4,000 people. Thanks to their continuing presence in the streets, Birmingham was one of the first councils to declare the climate emergency and to set sustainable goals like reducing gas emission and becoming zero carbon by 2030. But it is not enough. Activists say there is still a long way to go to reach climate justice, and that's the reason why it is so important to keep fighting, but it is not always easy to make people understand.
I'm fighting for my future because at the end of the day it's going to be my future that's affected, and if I can do anything to stop that from being destroyed, then I will.
If you want to see change, you've got to go out there and do it yourself, because everybody can sit at home on the runs and they can grumble and they can moan.
People, adults especially, don't give us a voice, but when we do want to be heard, and that's why we're here today.
So many other people saying we're the ones who are going to save the planet, that are so proud and happy for us. Yeah, we're trying our best, we're doing what we can, but you know what? Why don't they get up and actually help us?
So I know it's easy to feel like giving up. If you believe in this cause, then you 100% have to stand up for it, because even if we only make the world a little bit better for future generations, we're still making it better, and therefore we need to carry on what we're doing today.
Like, we don't even know each other. When we just unite over our love of our planet is amazing. Just to see people care is amazing.
For the first time in a long time, it gives people the motivation to get out of bed, to get something done, to make ourselves heard and do anything we can.
Being active is the only way to reach a better future. Generation Z strongly believe that anybody can make a change. We just have to stand up for it.
Anyone can be an activist. If you feel passionate about a subject and you do something about it, you are an activist. Think of something like start a petition or go to one of our strikes and you like that's an activist, you're fighting for a cause that you believe truly about.
Why are we here? Hope. There's still a chance to change, but we need it now. That hope's on a clock, and it's ticking away.
Thank you, Antonia. We are seeing more and more groups who are actively battling climate change. Some of the most impacting voices, such as Greta Thunberg, who has given a number of rousing speeches questioning the efforts of senior figures, while there are others like Boyan Slat, who has quietly gone about his business to cleanse the ocean off of plastic pollutants.
You're absolutely right, and the amount of activism we are seeing on a regular basis is the proof of everyone can do something to help protect the planet from climate change and global warming. In fact, people are listening and watching, and the message is actually being heard.
And now, we move on to another group of activists in Coventry.
In December 2019, a bizarre protest was held in the form of a tree funeral in Coventry due to the cutting down of trees in the city centre to make way for construction work.
It has been a real problem, and even trees behind the studio where we are sat right now have been demolished to make way for new university buildings.
This hasn't been without protest though. We sent out Angela Crocker and team to find out more.
For over 50 years these trees grew here, absorbing carbon dioxide. Their leaves trapped fine particles from the air, from exhaust fumes and construction work.
Last December, a group of historic Coventry city centre trees were cut down to make way for new renovations. A group of environmentalists showed their dismay by holding a tree funeral.
Hi guys, I'm Angela and today I'm in the streets of Coventry talking to students about what they think about all the trees going missing and climate change.
Well, I've noticed that quite a few of the trees have been replaced past the EC building, and I know that this is going to be replaced with like a small park or something, so I think that's kind of good in a way.
Yeah, I haven't taken notice of very many trees missing, so I actually hadn't noticed that. But yeah, I know this is going to be a green space, so I think that's, in the end, it should be okay.
I think Coventry is a developing city at the moment. There's a lot of new buildings popping up, a lot of green spaces are being taken away. I do think the City Council aren't really on top of managing what green areas are kept. We do have several parks throughout the city though. In the future would just be to remember its importance, to pressure the council to stay on top of managing some green spaces, especially in the very city centre. We are losing a lot of green area.
There's quite clearly a problem globally over the loss of trees in our ecosystems and how that affects our carbon footprint. But in Coventry in particular, it's extremely prevalent because we are in a big city, City of Culture 2021, so it's the aims of making Coventry a busier city.
The students really have a lot to say about the trees going for new renovations. I can't believe the impact it has on our lives.
Yes, it's really impressive watching young people concentrated about the environment and getting involved in projects such as the Green Week.
Talking about Green Week, this is a week-long initiative held at Coventry University each year that promotes a healthy lifestyle and environmental balance.
We sent reporter Annalisa Romano to find out more about what is in store for the Green Week.
The Green Week was already a project that we had before. When I took over the sustainability office, I wanted to make sure that it is more developed and updated this year. And then we had a lot more activities for students, a lot more engagement, and I think it was a better version of the Green Week this year. So I'm very happy for that. I hope everyone enjoyed it and really appreciated what we were doing here to raise awareness about sustainability. The university thinks about sustainability and make it as an important don't know, as important as education, I would say. So we have some projects coming soon. We have the Global Sustainability Summit, which is a very beautiful event that I would love.
Talk to me about these events.
I would love students to book their places. So it happens on 21st of March from 10 to 4. We have a lot of great speakers coming, the free food and a lot of entertainment during the event, which is really good. A team of beautiful, amazing people got this together, including myself, and I'm very proud to, represent this to Coventry students. It's a one event that's gonna have, years and years of like development. So it's like first of a lot of them.
Okay, so this one is going to be the first one.
Yeah.
So definitely we should join it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna join it.
Yeah, I'm gonna join it.
Well, this is all we have time for today. We hope that you have found this year's programme from Coventry University to be very informative.
If you wish to follow any more updates from Coventry University, you can do so on Twitter handle @MAGlobalJourno or on our Instagram @GlobalJournoCov.
Thank you very much for watching, and from myself and Kurt here at Coventry University, it's goodbye from us.
Soon after the studio recording, COVID-19 hit the world and we all went into lockdown. Here's Alexandra Botta for more.
In terms of studies, we're only having online classes now. But when it comes to coursework, as I'm doing mechanical engineering, we use a lot of the workshop for our coursework. So with the university closing, we are now moving it more online. For instance, I'm making designs on CATIA, which is a computer-aided design software, instead of making them in the workshop, so that we can still give in reports. So we have half of it that we can do and half of it that we can't. So they've changed the marking.
I'm studying biomedical science, and obviously that is a huge lab-based course, but since face-to-face teaching has been suspended, there's no way for us to practice. Right now I have 2 exams left, one for each module, and then I have 2 other pieces of coursework which can be done at home. At the moment, our module leaders have not told us what's going to happen. They might have to be set online.
Thank you and goodbye. Stay safe, everybody.
Now we're joined by Annalisa and Angela from Coventry University. So Annalisa, how did you guys come up with this year's story ideas?
So basically my idea on climate change was to take a particular angle of the story. And during our Green Week from the 2nd to the 8th of March, Coventry University, with in collaboration with Warwick University and Coventry City Council, were working on the Green Week, of course, the week of sustainability. And I decided to take the angle of students' point of view. And of course, as my colleague were saying, that this lockdown has brought some benefit on our climate issue, but the point was how to educate the students on taking action. And so I decided to interview actually Elena Alexandra Miron, who is part of the sustainability office in Coventry University. So, and she's like a leader, and she set all the events for the week, and she was like trying to make students aware of the situation, how Coventry was working for a better future, and in particular teaching the basic thing why sustainability is important. For example, we had center event from craft to in the library there was like this board to make your pitch for sustainability. So it was a way to educate the student on the matter.
Thank you. So given the pandemic,
what were the challenges in putting together this year's Global News Relay?
So actually we had as issue at the beginning of the pandemic, most like of the student international, they left the country. So to be honest, there was not such difficulty on reaching out or working together, even we were not anymore like together like physically. But of course we have been affected, I think, more psychologically than in a physical way. But despite this is our main point, and the first, I think, journalist like responsibility is to report the news. And even though like the circumstances or there are like some misadventure, like we had the strength to work together and to make this happen. So yeah, I'm so glad.
Thank you for joining us, Annalisa.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now let's go to BREDA University in Netherlands.
Welcome viewers to the Global News Relay, Dutch edition. My name is Mario Matev, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Efke van der Loop.
Thank you, Mario. Unfortunately, we can't film this together in the studio at our own school. And although it has had some big disadvantages for our daily life, the coronavirus, it also has had some positive influences on the well-being of the Earth.
I completely agree. The fact that we have been staying at home has clearly had major beneficial effects for the environment. For example, the clearing out of the canals in Venice, the major pollution rate drops in big cities such as London and Paris. We have clearly seen how the environment has been flourishing during this time of self-isolation for us. However, in this particular broadcast from the Netherlands, we're going to focus a little bit prior to the corona pandemic. We're going to take a step back and we're going to examine why people should care about the environment and what they think about it and what actions they can take in order to help it.
So, prior to this current stay-at-home situation, we actually went on the street and asked people what they think about the environment and what they do to help. Let's have a look.
I like to be more minimalistic in my approach, so I just buy what is necessary and I try to keep them as long as I can.
Eigenlijk niet zoveel, denk ik. Nee, maar we proberen wel onze oude kleding een nieuwe kans te geven en die verkopen we dan of geven gratis weg. Of geven we inderdaad gratis weg.
We zijn vegetarisch gaan eten thuis. Heel soms als we uit eten gaan, dan gunnen we onszelf wel een stukje vlees. Maar we zijn eigenlijk volledig vegetarisch gaan eten. Dat is denk ik de grootste verandering.
Nou, ik vind dat er op dit moment iets te veel wordt neergelegd bij gewoon standaard mensen. Terwijl gewoon grootste vervuilers er iets te makkelijk mee weg kunnen komen of zo. Dus gewoon iets meer grote bedrijven aanpakken of zo.
Ging slecht. Ik denk dat we nog veel te luxe zijn.
Nou, ik denk dat daar nog wel wat slagen te winnen zijn. Er kan nog wel wat meer aan gedaan worden. En misschien ook dat er op een bepaalde manier een belasting wordt geheven op het slordig omgaan met duurzame materialen. En misschien ook subsidies om wat goedkoper aan energie te kunnen komen.
Nou, ik vind dat moeilijk te zeggen, want wat wij weten, wat Nederland dan doet, dat lezen we in de krant en dat zien we op tv. Dat is over het algemeen erg gekleurd.
Ja, dus geen afspraken maken per land, maar echt mondiale afspraken maken over hoe we omgaan met alle mineralen, energie. En op welke manier we de wereld door kunnen geven met een gerust hart aan andere generaties.
Echt met drastische maatregelen te komen. In plaats van elke keer alleen maar hoop en valse hoop te geven.
Ze moeten het er gewoon veel meer over hebben met z'n allen en meer maatregelen nemen.
Dus we moeten dan gaan overleggen of zo met z'n allen. Hoe ze dat het beste kunnen aanpakken. Maar hoe ze dat zouden moeten doen, dat weet ik ook niet. Nee.
Ja. Ja, ik denk dat ze van elkaars ideeën moeten gaan leren. Maar welke ideeën dat dan moeten zijn, vind ik zelf ook erg moeilijk om te bedenken eigenlijk.
Nou, ik vind sowieso dat wij als Europa beter samen moeten werken daarvoor. En ik denk als je die stap al bereikt, dat je al een heel groot stuk verder bent dan wat we nu aan het doen zijn.
a mixed feeling. It doesn't look like it's getting through to everyone.
De oude generatie zijn tenminste nog opgegroeid met een beetje normen en waarden. En deze niet. Dus wij zijn echt allemaal zo van, ja, het komt allemaal vanzelf wel en we zien het allemaal wel.
Ik denk dat het goed is dat de jongere generatie de oudere generatie is wakker schudt. Dus complimenten daarmee, daar moeten ze vooral mee doorgaan. Hou die oudjes maar wakker.
Ik denk eigenlijk eerder zelfs beter dan de oudere generatie, zeg maar. Misschien is dat niet zo, maar dat denk ik gewoon. Omdat ik denk dat ouderen denken van boeien, weet je wel. Ze zijn het gewend, dus dat denk ik. Ja, en het wordt ook best wel hip nu.
Ik denk dat jongeren zich veel bewuster zijn. Ik bedoel, jullie zijn jong en jullie zijn er dus hard mee bezig. Dus ik denk dat wij als ouderen van jullie kunnen leren.
Ik denk dat de oudere generatie er meer van bewust is. En misschien mogen er meer lessen worden gegeven aan jongeren om zich er bewust van te maken.
Now, we have heard a lot of opinions, but what are the actual facts about what's going on with the environment in the Netherlands?
Mario, did you know that actually the biggest part of this country is beneath sea level? So if temperature keeps on rising, you'll have to start saving up for a boat.
Yikes. Well, that sounds unfortunate. Let's find a little bit more about it in the following infographic about climate change.
You must have noticed that the climate has drastically changed over the last century. In 2016, 194 countries signed the Convention Against Climate Change. There was a lot of critique on it, but an even bigger amount of praise. It is now confirmed that 97% of climate change is a direct consequence of human activities. You may think that your actions don't really have an effect on its own, but we all contribute to one big build-up of problems that is eventually going to take its toll. Right now, here in the Netherlands, it is happening and we can't deny it anymore. The average temperature here has increased with 1.9 degrees Celsius since 1906. Maybe you're enjoying the hot summery days, but it is tough for other members of our society, elderly people being one of them, who are less resistant against the heat. We are currently living below sea level, but due to the melting of the ice caps, the level has risen with 26 to 82 centimeters already. At one point, our dikes won't be able to contain it anymore and a big part of the Netherlands will disappear underwater. Climate change also affects our food supply because tropical storms and long periods of drought cause damage to the crops, which makes them unable to be consumed. And last but not least, it also messes with the migration patterns of the birds. Irregular weather conditions make them return home sooner, which leads to them starving, because there are too many birds compared to the amount of food to share. Do you want to know what you can do as a Gen Zer? Yes, you! Gen Zers are seen as the group who doesn't only dream but also acts. Engage in conversation about what is going on, spread awareness, look out for the vulnerable people in society, and be conscious with the resources that we have. The decisions that you make have consequences for how you will live your life and influence the lives of the many that come after you. It starts now.
Oh boy, that sounds like a big responsibility. What can I as a young individual do to help the environment?
Well, Evke, if you take a look and scroll down through Instagram, you can find various young influencers who are fighting for the environment. One in particular is Maartje Bregman from the Netherlands, and in the following story, she is going to help inspire us how to live a more sustainable life.
This is Maartje Bregman, the 21-year-old owner of Life of Maar, her platform where she inspires her followers with vegetarian and vegan recipes, slow fashion, run-in stories, and her sustainable way of living. She gained over 25k followers on Instagram already and won last year's Women's Health Foodie Award. Why does Maartje care about sustainability? And how does she balance college life and her healthy way of living? Let's find out what the life of a sustainable influencer looks like.
Let's go back to the beginning. How did you come up with the idea to start Life of Maar?
There was only food pictures at that time, so I didn't post anything of myself. And so no one knew I had that. Then my account grew. I got more followers, more likes, more people, more engagement. And I kind of liked it.
So you're all about sustainability with your account. Why do you live sustainable for yourself?
So it is also because I'm doing it for my own health and feel like really energized and happy in the morning when I wake up and not like really grumpy. But it's also for the planet and the animals, because I don't think they deserve to live just like for a few months and then being like killed.
How do you think you inspire your people as a sustainable influencer?
I just got a reaction yesterday. A girl told me that she said like, I really love the way you're influencing us on the vegetarian vegan lifestyle, and I really like what you're doing. So thanks for that. So that was a really happy message for me, and yeah, it's making my day actually.
You're always honest about that you're not like the perfect example of maybe healthy living because you're a student, of course. And why do you choose to be honest about all of that?
I think it's healthy to like be 80% of the time really perfect, and 20% really not perfect. So when I show only the perfect moments, people cannot relate. And I think one of the most important things about being an influencer is that people can relate, that they can feel how you feel, that they can imagine how it is to be you. So if someone sees me eating a bar of chocolate and the day after eating a oatmeal and run a 10K, then they think, hey, I ate a bar of chocolate, but I can also eat some oatmeal and I can also run 10K.
What is the goal of Life of Mart for you?
For now, I just want to inspire people and be inspired, because I also follow a lot of other healthy foodies or runners or sustainability experts, and I really like the way they inspire me, and I want to inspire my followers by doing the same. But it would be really cool to have my own company with my own rules and my own money.
As you can hear, Martje still has some goals she wants to achieve. For herself, but also for the world around her. I'm positive she will get there eventually and that she will inspire many more people along the way.
Wow! I'm definitely checking out her account for some tasty vegan recipes.
Good for you. It looks like being bored in isolation and finally made you cooking yourself.
You have no idea. And with that, everyone, we would like to conclude our little broadcast here from the Netherlands. It was a true pleasure getting to share and produce our stories. And with that said, we would also like to extend special thanks to our partners at Fresno State and Hong Kong Baptist University.
Thank you for all of this hard work during this uncertainty. And thank you for still organizing this global news relay for all of us around the world.
We hope that we were able to provide you with helpful facts and information.
Hello. Hi. Hi, FCAT. So with the world put on lockdown, the environment has surely been thriving. What are some beneficial effects on the environment that the Netherlands has recently experienced?
It's a big issue in regards to nitrogen that was going in the atmosphere. So what the government actually tried to do is to lower this nitrogen level, and what it did was actually impose a certain ban on farming animals. So they tried to cut all farming animals by 50%. And of course, this didn't serve very well with farmers. So what they did is they went out protesting in the highways and everything. However, then the corona pandemic happened, and there wasn't really something that was solved by this. However, because of the self-isolation, the environment has indeed been thriving. And we can say that the nitrogen levels have decreased. However, the government still hasn't addressed that issue. So it's really interesting to see how after this lockdown is being lifted, to see how the government is going to approach the whole issue that it imposed prior to the pandemic.
Yeah, so a big issue for the Netherlands regarding to climate change seems to be the rising sea levels. How's the Netherlands currently dealing with this problem?
So, as you know or might know, the Netherlands is near to the sea. So, being near to the sea always has caused a lot of problems for the country. So, for example, in the 20s of the last century, they built a really big bridge, and it's called the Afsluitdijk, and it actually closes the country from the sea on one part. But then there was another really big flood in 1953, who actually caused to like sink down a whole province in that storm, which later was covered. But then they built the Delta Works, and the Netherlands is actually quite famous for that. They built a lot of dikes near their province to make sure that the country is safe from the water. But that's also due to a certain expense. Like if the sea levels will continue to rise, that's going to be very dangerous for the country.
Okay, so what consequence will the country of the Netherlands have to deal with if sea levels keep rising?
Well, it's interesting to see what Efke said, actually. It's around 20% of the Netherlands is the land, and major cities are actually built on what used to be sea. So you have big cities like Amsterdam and Rotterdam, they're actually built on sea land. So if sea levels keep rising, big cities like that would actually be completely underwater.
Yeah, that's actually quite dangerous because like Mario.
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mario. Thank you, Efke.
So next, we join the University of the West of England, which is in Bristol in the UK.
What should be the University of the West of England. I'm Rob Mayer, and today we are looking at the big issues. Firstly, how the people of Bristol are working to combat climate change. And later in the programme, we're looking at how the city is facing its newest challenge, the global lockdown caused by COVID-19. Coming up, Greta Thunberg appeared in Bristol to join protesters in a march through the city centre. A closer look into the international activism organisation Extinction Rebellion. Students from Bristol come together for the very first Green Team Summit. And students show what their lives will look like in the last few weeks. As we approach the summer of 2020, people all over the world want to see stronger action on climate targets. Greta Thunberg's appearance in Bristol inspired 30,000 climate protesters to join her and march through the city centre in a common aim to fight climate change. The teenager was greeted to chants of her name from the crowd, many of them school pupils who have been taking part in regular walkouts to protest government inaction on global warming. The local police force said that there was potential for protesters to be hurt, from either tripping or being crushed by the crowds, but the whole event passed off trouble-free in spite of the pouring rain. Extinction Rebellion were founded in the West Country, not far from Bristol, in 2018. Since then, they have become a global organisation responsible for numerous climate-related protests and demonstrations. Hugo Docking looks at how they, and other green activists, have made an impact here in Bristol.
After a long battle between Bristol Airport and various activist groups in the city, plans to expand the airport have been recently rejected by the council. I've been following two activists who have been fighting the expansion in some interesting and creative ways. Fee has been a climate activist for many years and is now a member of Extinction Rebellion, a controversial group of activists who partake in acts of civil disobedience and encourage each other to get arrested to promote their message. Preventing the airport expansion has been a priority for her and the rest of Extinction Rebellion.
I was really beginning to despair last year, at the beginning of last year, because I thought I've been slogging away for 10 years and really, to be honest, nothing has changed. I was just almost ready to throw in the towel, and then Extinction Rebellion came along. Yeah, I was arrested in April because I was up at Oxford Circus.
I joined Fee outside the town hall. Here, representatives from the airport were explaining to the council their plans to expand the airport while also reducing their carbon footprint. Extinction Rebellion say that these plans have been made to look environmentally friendly when they actually aren't. Greenwash.
And we need to make the mayor and the council realise that declaring a climate emergency and hosting Bristol Airport to tell their greenwash, it just doesn't add up. We've got to stop it. So that's what we're all here doing.
Aussie isn't currently a member of any specific activism group, but that doesn't stop him organising his own protests against the airport's expansion.
I cycle everywhere, and it might be a good idea if perhaps I could get a few people interested in taking their bikes down to the roundabout in front of Bristol Airport and just have a little just cycle round the roundabout, really. And a bit of indecision as to which way we'd go means that we'd have to keep going round and round.
The rejection of airport expansion is a victory for Fee, Aussie, and many other climate-conscious activists in Bristol. However, they realise that there is still much to be done to prevent climate catastrophe.
In preparation for International Earth Day, 7 primary and secondary schools from across Bristol came together for the very first Green Team Summit. The focus was to raise awareness of and promote discussion around environmental issues. Here are Elitza Bashkaleva and Lucia Echeverry reporting with more.
As we prepare for International Earth Day, 7 primary and secondary schools from across Bristol come together for the very first Green Team Summit. The first seeds of change were planted at Bristol City Hall, where the children shared ideas and best practice from their schools. Mayor Marvin Rees was unable to make the event, but recorded a message about what Bristol City Council are working on to improve sustainability in the city. Guest speakers Rose Craig, famously known as Bird Girl, and Nassim Talukder, founder of local plastic pollution charity, gave passionate speeches to encourage the children's critical thinking.
It's really, really important to remind us where we are in this planet and also remind us how beautiful our planet is, and we need to appreciate, and as a human race we need to take more responsibility for our planet. And those days does remind us, that makes us feel like we can actually do it. All of the country, all of the world are coming out on the street to fight for this planet. It is hopeful. I see a really, really beautiful future in front of us, but it's not going to be a happy ride. So, we need to buckle up for that.
The Green Teams then took part in workshops to learn more about environmental issues with local organisations. The children were busy planting and labelling seeds, learning how to be eco-efficient and how they can make a difference through their choices and actions. The young climate change strikers shared their views and opinions on what they think the future looks like.
I don't think it's that good because it's not that many people are really helping. They're just they're just doing what they want and not thinking about other people's future. I think there is a bit of hope if all the children put their action and I think they can change it. I think I see the future not really good or clean because there are lots of plastic in the oceans and lots of cars.
I see the future. I really can't predict the future, so I won't know. But I think the future will be lots of planes, more planes flying in the air than usual.
Incorporating eco-topics in the course of study is a process of spreading the message across communities.
So quite often, especially with the eco-topics, it's not necessarily in the curriculum as a straight-up subject, and so when we do it after school, they're kind of in their own little glass bowl, I suppose, and getting it out to wider and realising there's other people who are doing the same thing as them in their schools and just trying to spread the message and show that they're kind of a network of people working together.
The summit finished with a powerful march around College Green where young people had the chance to champion environmental causes and to encourage their families and communities to do the same.
Since our reports were filmed, Bristol has gone into lockdown. For those stuck at home, here are some UWE students with some ideas on how to fill the time.
Dungeons and Dragons, or D&D for short. Do you play it?
My friend brings D&D in every Wednesday, and we just sit there playing our own little version.
Sounds like fun, but what is it?
It's a little bit like a board game mixed with drama class. So you play a character, you just need a pen and paper and some dice, and you can go from there.
Where does it come from?
In the 80s and 90s, parents were terrified of Dungeons and Dragons because it was this scary thing that they didn't understand, and it's got about wizards and monsters and magical spells.
Do you think parents are aware that when the children play the game, that demon spirits are involved?
Shadow demon. See that they are captured and bring them to me.
So why are kids playing a game from the 80s?
I think in the last few years, there's certainly been a trend of coming back to these more traditional games. Dungeons and Dragons has been in a lot of films and TV shows recently, so everyone's kind of talking about it and thinking about it.
The Demogorgon!
Jamie specialises in running D&D sessions for kids with additional needs. But what are additional needs, and how is D&D helpful?
Additional needs can take lots of forms. So it might be that someone is in a wheelchair. Sometimes people with additional needs find it hard to socialise, and something like this gives them a chance to come along and make some new friends.
His lessons are fun, and he's an amazing GM.
But then came the coronavirus. How would our heroes overcome this new villain?
So you can play Dungeons and Dragons online with your friends, and you can use what's called a virtual tabletop, and a lot of those are free to use, and you can go on Discord or on Skype and chat to your mates.
Phew! If you're bored and stuck at home during lockdown, maybe give D&D a go.
It has been an amazing experience to be part of the Global News Relay 2020. Thanks from the whole UWE team for joining us today. Stay home and stay safe.
the University of the West of England, which is in Bristol in the UK. Hi. Hi, Timia.
Hiya, there we go.
Hi. What sort of initiatives are in the city to keep it environmentally friendly?
So currently there's a so-called diesel ban that they're hoping to kind of implement throughout the city. It has been approved by the council, however it is still waiting for government approval. They're hoping to kind of decrease the amount of diesel cars in the city, of course, to decrease the air pollution. There's also an initiative for biogas buses, which will be driven by methane gas, which is much more environmentally friendly than petrol or diesel and that kind of thing. And there's also an initiative called For Cups' Sake, which is a recycling project for used cups, where there's like several little bins. I think there's about 100 of them around Bristol at the moment, that people can just put their used cups in and they get turned into something more useful for the future.
I see. So how has the visit of Greta Thunberg affected the city?
It has great effect on the city with the way that it is getting younger children involved in the whole environmental and climate change fight. And I think with her kind of visiting here, it really is pointing out the fact that Bristol is ever evolving, ever more environmentally friendly city as it passes kind of marks and getting new initiatives involved.
I see. So how has Bristol been affected by the COVID-19 outbreak we are experiencing now?
Yeah, it's actually surprisingly a lot less. Like the whole southwest region of England has been less affected by it. Of course, we have the Nightingale Hospital opening here in Bristol by the French Hay campus of UWE, which they're hoping is not going to be too used, but it's there just in case, and they're going to be getting people in there from all over the county. Yeah.
I see. How about you? How has the quarantine affected you as students?
Oh God, it's been an experience. It most certainly has. But our tutors have been ever so lovely, and while we still had our semester time, they were still giving us lectures online on Zoom, and they were kind of ever so helpful while getting through all the coursework, getting it all finished. And it's been an emotional roller coaster, but I guess we're all getting busy and keeping ourselves entertained. Like I've actually started crocheting. I made this little guy. I've been keeping busy, and that's all it is. Keeping yourself busy and not letting yourself fall into that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, thank you for your sharing.
That's right. Thank you for having me.
We have Salford University from UK.
Coming up on Keys News, we'll be speaking to Charlotte Lastoveski, who organises youth climate strikes in Manchester.
Millions of pieces of rubbish are dropped daily in the UK. Young people in Widnes are on a mission to clean up the streets.
And we'll take a look at the disposable household waste that is causing problems for rivers across Greater Manchester.
After each big flood, that gets totally clogged with wet wipes and sanitary products, etc. Thousands and thousands of those wet wipes come directly out of the sewage system and get washed into the river.
Hello and welcome to the University of Salford. We're right at the heart of Media City UK, home to the BBC and ITV.
You're watching Keys News.
With this year's theme, Gen Z and climate change, we're going to chat to Charlotte Lastoveski, who could be considered as Manchester's Greta Thunberg. Charlotte organises youth climate strikes across the northwest. She is at sixth form and so divides her studies with the extra work.
So thanks for joining us, Charlotte. So you're 18, you're still at sixth form in Manchester, but you're devoting all this time to youth climate strikes. So tell me a bit about that.
February last year it started, and it's just kind of
rolled and rolled and kept going, which is incredible because you never know what a movement like this is actually going to turn out to be. So it's amazing that it's still going after a year.
Helped organise, would you call them protests?
Yes.
So they're once a month, aren't they? They're on the streets of Manchester. So what sort of organisation goes into this?
So I do the logistics side of the event, I run the social media pages, and I also liaison with the police. Logistics include getting a speaker down there so people can hear, getting megaphones, getting Extinction Rebellion youth to come and support us, getting samba bands there, getting the press release there, all those kinds of things. And liaison with the police is making sure that everything runs smoothly and make sure that they facilitate us and nobody gets like arrested and things.
So what would happen, say someone was at a youth climate, they're a young person, do you have arrests? Have you ever had an arrest?
We've had detainments.
Okay.
We've had a kettle in before and they were issued a warning and they weren't allowed back into Manchester for I think 12 hours. So that was pretty scary.
So it's one event a month, so how many hours do you put into the prep for that?
Quite a few hours a week, probably about 5-6 hours a week, running social media pages, answering questions, answering emails, getting everything done, talking to people at UKSEN. All those different things do accumulate quite a few hours in a week.
Why do you think it's important for young people to get involved in this sort of thing?
Because it's ultimately our future that's going to be affected by it, and the government's inaction now could mean that no action could be taken in the future. And I think a lot of young people understand that they're at threat and they understand the small things.
Thank you very much for joining us, Charlotte.
You're welcome.
Pollution is a huge issue which many of us are acutely aware of, but have you ever considered the impact that litter has on the environment? Some things we discard do not biodegrade and can affect the environment for decades to come. Siobhan Fletcher went out to talk to young people in Widnes who are on a mission to clean up our streets.
I'm here at St Luke's Clubhouse in Widnes, where local scouts and guides have been out with Keep Widnes Tidy founder Kieran Gordon, keeping the streets clean. They've collected over 30 bags of rubbish in less than 2 hours.
So 30 bags from such a small area is quite bad, and when you drive past you wouldn't really think it was that bad. Even I thought we're not going to have a lot to do here, but the fact we've got 30 bags today shows when you litter it doesn't disappear, it's still around somewhere.
We are part of this local community, and it's really important that our young people get involved with events that are for the community. And as this is a litter pick, it's also important, it's a lesson that our children need to learn. They need to learn about not dropping litter and what happens when they do.
The amount of litter dropped yearly in the UK has increased by 500% since the 1960s. 2.2 million pieces of litter are dropped daily across the UK. In 2015, £1 billion of taxpayers' money was spent cleaning up litter.
I've litter picked litter from 30 years ago, which is still fully intact. It doesn't disappear, it just ends up in hedgerows or in street gullies, and then just affects the wildlife.
I asked the kids what sort of things they'd found.
A lock or a battery charger, I don't know what it was. It was like plastic. And lots of pencils on the floor.
Pencils?
Yeah, there was loads of blue pencils on the floor.
For Keep Widnes Tidy, it's all about raising awareness of small actions and their big environmental impact, as well as inspiring young people to get involved.
Grills and rivers throughout Greater Manchester are becoming clogged with wet wipes and disposable menstrual waste. Young people are making the switch to reusable options in order to help combat this pollution. Helena Davidson has this report.
All along the banks of the River Tame sit a congealed mess of wet wipes, sanitary products, condoms and nappies. Professor Jamie Woodward from the University of Manchester is researching pollution caused by disposable wipes and period products on our rivers and sewers.
These are your wet wipes, whether they're biodegradable, flushable, whatever it says. These are quite rigid. You flush them down the toilet, they'll get washed out of the sewage system during a big flood event, and they'll end up in your local river. And these are all contaminated wet wipes, marinated in sewage, that are deposited on this tree during a big flood. We've just seen a site immediately upstream of here, which is a combined sewer overflow with a big steel drill on the front. After each big flood, that gets totally clogged with wet wipes and sanitary products, etc. Thousands and thousands of those wet wipes come directly out of the sewage system and get washed into the river.
These are all products that us in Gen Z use in our everyday lives. Period waste is a huge problem, with research from the London Assembly estimating that 1.5 to 2 billion menstrual products a year are flushed down the toilet in the UK.
Ever since I've started studying geography and understanding the impacts, that's when I moved to renewables, because I think once you see what happens at the end point, and I pick a lot of litter, and it's sadly sanitary pads sometimes and used tampons, just seeing them there, and like if I didn't pick them up, would they be there for years?
The solution? Switching to reusable menstrual products and face cloths like the ones Faye sells at her zero waste shop in Walkden.
So we're trying to reduce plastic waste, but we're also trying to offer an eco-friendly product as well. Everything goes back to the ocean, everything goes down the drain, so it's trying to put something out there that's not harmful to aquatic life as well.
Despite so many people working to find a solution, this riverbank highlights that the problem still remains.
Now, we all know how quickly our lives have changed due to COVID-19. Many countries are on lockdown, with a few starting to ease some of their restrictions.
On a positive note, the lockdown has led to a record fall in CO2 emissions, which can only be good news for the planet.
There's also been so much solidarity shown, people helping each other out, and the UK is also clapping for the National Health Service, doctors and nurses every Thursday night. Take a look now. Ollie, where you live, have you been clapping for the carers?
Of course I've been clapping for the carers. In fact, pretty much everyone in my street has been clapping for the carers, even people who I had no idea existed. The people from right down the bottom of the road. I would have never been introduced to them before. But then every Thursday night, they come out 8 o'clock sharp, banging on pots and pans, and it's suddenly we have this solidarity, which we've needed for years, but no more than we do now. And it's amazing to see.
It's really nice, isn't it? Because we've met like new neighbours because of it, and the people who live across the street from us bring out their guitars and play like Oasis songs, which is really nice.
Oh, that's good. Does everyone sing along?
Everyone does sing along, yeah, which is really.
Do you sing along?
I am partial to a bit of Wonderwall. Oh yes.
Well, you should get practicing for tonight. But in the meantime, that's all for us today. You can follow us on Twitter at Keys News and on Instagram at Keys TV. But now back to the studio in Hong Kong. Goodbye.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
So can you briefly introduce your program that you produced and what are the challenges you faced when producing it?
Yeah, so our program features pollution, littering, and we also have an interview with a girl called Charlotte. She's known as the English Greta Thunberg. And some of the challenges that we faced were obviously in England right now we're in lockdown due to coronavirus. So we weren't allowed to gain access to our footage because our university closed. So we had to refilm our whole program. But luckily, there's so many softwares that we can use. So through Skype, we were able to re-record our program for you guys.
I see. So can you tell me more about how you cover the student-led topic and then adult-led media environment?
So I think the important thing with this is to look at the coverage that everyone else is doing and see what we can do to expand upon it. I think being a student-led issue, a lot of adult-led media organizations maybe don't take the time to consider our position on the issue. Charlotte said, ultimately it's us who are having to deal with this, and it's our future. So it's very important to us when we were doing this that it was something that was very student-led and something that was gained from the perspective of the student as opposed to from the adults.
Yeah. How is the pollution level in the UK now? How has it changed since the lockdown?
So obviously, places like London have a lot of pollution because there's so many people there and there's so much traffic all the time. But since lockdown, obviously there's a reduction in road traffic. So a lot of cities, there's been a decrease in the carbon monoxide in our air. And also, according to the London Air Quality Network, the average air pollution has actually fallen to its lowest since the 2000s. So thanks to lockdown, we're getting cleaner air.
I see. Thank you for sharing.
No worries.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up we have Ryerson University from Canada.
Hi, I'm Anna Ashite.
And I'm Marie-Pierre Surprenant. And you're watching the Global News Relay, a yearly show produced by universities around the world.
We're both students from Ryerson University in Toronto, Canada.
As you can tell, we're not in a studio this year as a result of COVID-19. The pandemic is forcing us to get creative and work off campus. Welcome to my basement in Ottawa, which is about 5 hours north of Toronto.
And I'm in Brampton, a city just north of Toronto, in a room in my house that has the best lighting. In spite of minor setbacks, we've still managed to put our segment of the Global News Relay together and focus on this year's topic, how our generation can do our part and see change in the environment. What better time than now to hear positive stories and uplift our spirits?
Today, we'll be looking at how everything from vintage clothing to reusable packaging can help reduce excess waste.
We'll begin with plastic bags. If you haven't heard by now, they've been a huge environmental issue around the world. They clutter landfills and are part of a giant plastic island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Our first story is about a woman in Toronto who is leading by example. She shows us just how easy it is to make a few changes in our lives and be environmentally friendly.
Marie Couillard is a student and environmentalist at Ryerson University in Canada, who has decided to stop using plastic bags in her day-to-day life.
More on that from Cassandra Franco.
And by the way, we're producing this show using Zoom, so please bear with us while you watch the story from our shared screen.
Marie Couillard stopped using plastic bags when she was 15 years old. She has been using the same few reusable tote bags for over 5 years now.
So I mainly stopped using plastic bags because of the guilt associated with them. It just feels bad to always use something that you can only use once or you can't reuse in enough ways. It coincided with my love for the environment and my passion to make sure that we all have the smallest footprint we possibly can have. We always think that everything isn't going to make an impact just because we're one person and we're just making small changes in our lives. But if everyone thought that way, then there would never be any change. So if everyone does this, then we can make a huge impact on the environment.
Every individual like Marie who uses recycled plastic bags over their lifetime will remove roughly 22,000 plastic bags from the environment.
I think when people are at the store and they get a plastic bag, they don't always think about the journey that the bag is going to go on and where it's going to end up in the long run. We just see it as this one thing that's convenient in the moment. But I think if we all saw what would actually happen with the things that we're not reusing, we would see how big of a detrimental impact it has on the environment. So whether it's ending up in landfills, ending up in oceans, littering our cities. All of those things just have such a negative influence.
Stopping the use of plastic bags isn't the only thing that Marie has changed about her lifestyle.
So stuff that I try to do in my daily life is using reusable containers for my food, using reusable water bottles, tumblers. I also, when I want to use a straw, I use reusable straws, using bags at grocery stores, turning off the light, that typical, the turning off the lights kind of stuff, preserving water as much as I can, and then a lot of what I buy. So whether it's environmentally conscious clothing as well, I'm pretty anti-fast fashion, and then also encouraging other people to try and do the same. I think ultimately we need to think about how we want to leave this earth and how we want to leave it for future generations. So if all of us are not doing everything that we can, we have no excuse for the future. We can blame it on corporations and those things all need to change. But at the end of the day, you are the difference that you can make, and everything that you do leaves a lasting impact on the earth.
Personally, reusable bags are my way of taking care of the ocean. I'd hate for my plastic bag to be the reason marine life dies.
Absolutely. The National Geographic actually just put out a statement saying that plastic bags are actually replacing plastic bags. I think this has a lot to do with some of the stores that we go to, like grocery stores, have been removing plastic bags and using recyclable material. However, it's kind of forcing us to have to buy plastic bags again to use.
I know that's definitely happened to me. I used to use my grocery bags for garbage, and now I find myself having to go buy plastic bags.
Right. I think it might be a good idea to ban plastic bags all over Canada, but I wonder how it will actually play out in our lives.
I'm on board for banning plastic grocery bags as long as we have a solid eco-friendly alternative for garbage bags. Everything in grocery stores seems to be wrapped in plastics or inside boxes, which causes a lot of waste.
It seems today that more and more people are incorporating reusable containers to limit the amount of garbage that they create.
At the Unboxed Market in Toronto, shoppers can bring their own containers and packages to the store. That reduces the amount of packaging used by each individual. More on that from Sydney Schluter.
The Unboxed Market is Toronto's first one-stop waste-free market. It's a place where you can get everything you need, as long as you bring your own containers. Michelle says she opened the store to help reduce the high amounts of food waste in Canada. The Unboxed Market gives shoppers the opportunity to buy exactly what they need in reusable packaging. The Unboxed Market has everything their customers need. The grocery store boasts a full deli, a butcher counter, 2 freezers filled with a variety of meat, vegetarian, and vegan options, a full dairy section including milk on tap, and a dry goods area with an array of staple foods such as beans, rice, pasta, and cereal. The store also has a produce wall filled with fresh fruits and vegetables that is restocked daily. To make things more convenient for their customers, the store has expanded beyond just selling food products. The Unboxed Market soap wall has all kinds of soaps, detergents, personal care, and cleaning products that shoppers can buy on tap or in biodegradable packaging. This may sound like a worry-free solution to end all plastic, but Michelle says there is still one big challenge. The Unboxed Market is always going to face difficulties when it comes to packaging. Whether it's finding innovative ways to get things out to their customers or reducing the packaging coming into the store, it's an obstacle the store will always have to tackle when it comes to bringing in new products. Unboxed grocery stores won't end plastic waste, but Michelle thinks that getting into the habit of using reusable containers when buying groceries certainly makes a difference. I'm Sydney Schluter from Ryerson University in Toronto for the Global News Relay.
And grocery stores aren't the only places you can reuse your packaging. I know a few stores in Toronto that focus on repurposing beauty products. Anna, they're called sustainable boutiques.
Okay, kind of like package-free beauty products, right?
Exactly.
Awesome.
Everything from shampoos, conditioners, to everyday makeup products. Beauty and lifestyle shops like Eco and more in Toronto make it easy to reuse lifestyle products and reduce your eco footprint.
Co-founder Laura Craig shows us how you can make just a few changes and join the refill revolution. Brianna Azevedo has the full story.
Through their vast array of green, reusable, package-free products and refill services, this store shows that there are more sustainable ways to shop for your lifestyle and beauty products.
It doesn't have to be remade. There's no reason why you have to go buy all these new things, even in your everyday life. Reuse products and repurpose them.
Studies have shown that each year, millions of tons of plastic waste continue to build in oceans and landfills. By 2050, the amount of plastic waste is anticipated to grow 4 times more, and looking for earth-friendly solutions can be a struggle, as co-owner Laura explains.
I remember too getting a certain hand soap bottle that I liked, and I wanted to reuse it. So instead of going to the store, I was looking for a refill. We found that there wasn't a lot of refill in the beauty categories.
Eco-friendly products is something not commonly found in the beauty industry. They are responsible for creating 120 billion units of packaging, some of which could take up to 1,000 years to decompose.
It's definitely well into the thousands of bottles that we've saved from landfill.
A solution with a big impact made so very simple.
We take the product that you've chosen, the shampoo in this case, and we will take it and just fill this.
Yeah.
And then we take it back, weigh the difference, and then send it directly to our POS.
Eco and Amore is a sign of growing concern within the young influencer generation about the environmental impacts of the beauty industry.
If you can reuse your shampoo bottle 10 times instead of once, it's great.
Small changes in your cosmetic buying habits, like using a refillable container, can cut carbon emissions created by the beauty industry by as much as 70%.
Everybody has different budgets, so you know, if you're wanting to make a big impact, just start small and see what you can do.
Here, progress is the only thing that counts.
We are no judgment here. You can bring in your plastic Tide bottle and refill it. Our customers are all on a journey to make better for their families.
In an industry that is lacking sustainability, stores like Eco and Amore could be the solution. For the Global News Relay at Ryerson University, I'm Brianna Azevedo.
Wow, $120 billion on packaging? That's insane. I never realized how the beauty industry was so wasteful.
The amount of waste is insane. Have you ever thought about how much makeup packaging goes to waste?
Well, I actually just got this package from Sephora a few days ago. This is how tiny the actual package is. And this is the amount of stuff that they put inside of the packaging. And plastic. I'm just wondering if big corporations like this can probably take some of the packaging advice from Eco Plus Amore and be a lot more sustainable and waste a lot less.
And I like that there are sustainable stores like Eco and Amore. And I know they're doing something similar at Muji, are making it easier for customers to make the switch. I feel like people are more prone to taking part in the movement if it's as easy as these videos shown.
Absolutely. I find that I'm able to really make sustainable choices when it's available for me at the stores that I normally go to. I'm happy to do my part when it's available.
Yeah, in the past few years, personally, I've been trying to go to bulk stores as much as I can, and I always use a reusable bag. Every little effort counts, right?
It does.
But the COVID-19 crisis has brought some changes that have affected stores like the Unboxed Market and Eco and Amore. A lot of places that allowed customers to bring in their own containers have stopped out of fear that it would further spread the virus.
Yeah, the same goes with plastic. A lot of bulk stores that avoided using plastic products are now bringing them back.
I'm more worried about people handling the food in bulk stores than the cloth bags. I went to Bulk Barn the other day. It's a store where you can buy almost anything from nuts to candy, and they had a system I liked. Basically, we couldn't use our own containers, but someone would go down the aisle with us and handle everything. I think it's a pretty good solution in this odd situation.
It is. I'm glad that they're offering a solution. I just recently found that stores like Starbucks and other coffee shops are no longer accepting refillable bottles.
You're watching the Global News Relay, an international show produced by students from around the world. I'm Marie-Pierre Surprenant from Ryerson University in Toronto, Canada.
And I'm Anna Ashite. And as you can see, we're not in the TV studio at our university. We're at home using Zoom to produce this show. We've just talked about how individuals can reuse and recycle products to help the environment. Let's talk about another major issue that's destroying the environment: pipelines.
As people around the world start buckling down to the dangers of climate change, gas pipelines projects and their negative effects on the environment have been put in the spotlight.
Here in Canada, we're known for our vast mining industry. We're responsible for more than 840,000 kilometers of pipelines, established by companies from all over the world. The Coastal GasLink pipeline and the Trans Mountain pipeline are just two examples of pipeline projects that have caused controversy over the last year.
And another one is in the city of Hamilton, about an hour west of Toronto. That pipeline is scheduled to be built in order to transport frack gas, putting an even deeper dent in Canada's carbon footprint. Our reporter Sakaina Payumo has the story.
With the dangers of climate change looming, citizens and politicians worldwide are aiming to find cleaner energy sources. Yet, in Canada, the oil business is booming. Enbridge, a gas distribution company, is planning construction on a new pipeline in Hamilton, one of Ontario's flourishing cities. But some believe its construction could pose detrimental effects on the environment. Jack Gibbons is the head of the Ontario Clean Air Alliance, an organization working to fight against carbon dioxide emissions and climate change. Along with other organizations, Jack has arranged a meeting to inform the public on the pipeline and its possible dangers.
Well, yes, this was a meeting to inform people about our campaign to phase out Ontario's gas-fired power plants and to alert them to Enbridge's proposal to build a large frack gas pipeline. And they want to build a $200 million pipeline in the city of Hamilton so that they can bring frack gas up from Pennsylvania into Ontario to allow Ontario's gas-fired power plants to increase their pollution by more than 300% by 2025. And that's just not acceptable.
With his research, Gibbons shows that there are better options for Ontario to get their power.
We should keep our lights on by importing clean water power from Quebec. It makes much more sense to buy clean, renewable water power from Quebec to keep our lights on instead of importing fracked gas from Pennsylvania. We've got to stop investing in new fossil fuel supply, and we've got to start putting our money into energy efficiency and into renewable energy sources.
Gibbons has worked in the climate activism sector for much of his career and isn't thinking about slowing down anytime soon.
So this was one of what will be many meetings to get the message out across the GTA and in Hamilton and the Niagara Peninsula and Kitchener, Waterloo, and Guelph, because we want to build a strong public awareness and opposition to the frack gas pipeline and to Doug Ford's proposal to ramp up the greenhouse gas pollution from our gas plants.
Premier Doug Ford, Ontario's provincial leader, has no plans to help prevent the irreversible effects of climate change. It's up to people like Gibbons to urge citizens to help fight against climate change for a better future.
Well, it's important to me because I've got 2 grandchildren who are 3 years old and 5 years old, and I want them to grow up in a planet that's healthy and green, and so they'll have a good future, and that their children will have a good future.
It is definitely a challenging time to navigate with both entering and changing native land and adding to air pollution.
Absolutely. And we mentioned before that this year's show is focusing on how our generation can do our part to eliminate climate change. While it's great to see activists like Jack Gibbons making a difference, we can't rely on him and his generation alone. Now is the time for young people to take initiative, as we've seen a few young activists taking complete charge.
For sure. In Canada, high school and university students are taking part in all sorts of protests to try and stop pipelines from being built in Alberta. Young activists like Greta Thunberg are also very inspiring.
Yeah, and here in Toronto, there are climate strike protests held on Fridays. It's great to see our generation doing what they can do to leave the earth in a better and sustainable place for future generations.
You're watching the Global News Relay. This segment is coming to you from Ryerson University in Toronto, Canada.
Animal agriculture is a big problem for climate change. It's responsible for 18% of greenhouse gas emissions.
In response to this, a lot of young adults are choosing to go on a plant-based vegan diet.
Let's meet Nicolina, a student at Ryerson University who's been vegan for the past 4 years. Will Pennington has her story.
This is Nicolina, who's been a vegan for over 5 years.
I went vegan mostly for the animals. I cared a lot about animals as a kid. And then when I got older, I realized it was a lot better for your health and mostly for the environment too.
Going vegan to help preserve the environment is something on the rise amongst younger generations, such as Generation Z.
So a lot of resources go into animal agriculture. So firstly, water. We use a lot of water to either give to animals to drink or to actually grow their food in the first place, or to even just help during the process of actually killing the animals and taking eggs and things like that. And then just a land issue as well. A lot of forests are getting burned down for animal agriculture, so even The recent fires in the Amazon and things like that, a lot of people don't know that those start when people burn down forests like by hand to get room for animals. I did a lot of research online, so I just kind of looked into YouTubers that are vegan or vegetarian and wanted to hear what they had to say about it. I watched a lot of Netflix documentaries. There are quite a few on either going vegan or just cutting out how much meat you eat. Cowspiracy is a good one for the environment aspect of it, and it talks a lot about all the resources that we use for animal agriculture, so that's a good one. Using other vegans as a resource, like in a group chat or in a group at school, is a really good way to kind of reach out to other people and find out what they do and how you can try it yourself. Even if you're not going to completely go vegan or vegetarian, definitely cutting back on how much meat you eat is a good help. If you want to do meatless Mondays, let's say, and just make sure that on Mondays you don't eat meat, that's a good strategy. And as well, just like trying to incorporate more vegan items, even if you're not going vegan. So if you're curious about different kinds of milk, you can always try almond milk or coconut milk and kind of add that in instead of completely getting rid of other things. You can try just eating more vegetables, even if you're still eating meat too. So things like that. Like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, but I think little steps are definitely helpful.
The environment is in need of help as climate change continues to shape our world today. While there are many ways that citizens can help restore our planet, going vegan is a massive step to help preserve land and keep the world greener and cleaner.
I work alongside Nicolina at Ryerson's 24-hour streaming station, and I've had the opportunity to hear firsthand her passion behind conscious eating and sustainability.
I admire her. It takes a conscious effort to follow that diet. But Nicolina brought up a very important fact with the water consumption needed for farming animals. I know that's why I made the switch to being vegetarian.
Yeah, and veganism doesn't just stop at the food you eat. It also includes the clothes that you wear. Have you ever heard of vegan leather? I've had my vegan leather bag from Matt and Nat for the past 3 years. It's great quality and it's made from sustainable and reused materials.
That's an inspiration, Anna. I haven't tried that yet, but there are also other ways your clothing choices can help the environment.
Absolutely. Being mindful of what you wear and where you shop is another way to make a huge difference in the environment. It's hard to believe that fast fashion is the second largest polluter, right next to the oil industry.
Vintage stores sell clothes for a fraction of the price of retail stores. With COVID-19 sparking an economic recession, many will be looking for ways to keep money in their pockets. A great way to save is by buying used clothing instead of clothes that are brand new.
Shopping vintage, also known as thrifting, has become increasingly popular with the younger generation.
And not everyone realizes that purchasing used clothes not only saves money, but also the environment.
Absolutely. This next story shows how a used clothing store just outside of Toronto promotes sustainability and prevents more waste from ending up in our landfills.
The Clarendon Trading Company, a vintage store located in Markham, Ontario. Fashionable clothing may be the most obvious appeal to this place, but what many people don't know are the environmental benefits.
I am the co-owner of the Clarendon Trading Company, and at the Clarendon Co, we source, distribute, and market vintage and contemporary pieces. It's us finding items that were once thrown out, that were disregarded, and now we're trying to bring a new life to them.
But giving clothes a new life requires a whole process blind to the average eye.
There are numerous ways you can source. But for myself, it's really working with wholesalers that ship and distribute clothing globally, where I go every morning, wake up early, and I just source and pick pieces that I think my audience likes.
Today, we are consuming 400% more clothing than we did just 20 years ago. And given that 85% of the clothes that we are consuming end up in landfills, shops like Clarendon Trading help prevent that by sourcing and distributing disregarded wear.
I would say on average, I source about 60 to 70 pounds a day. So let's say a week, that's roughly around 300 pounds. I think once you are getting garments that are no longer wanted or not being used or utilized properly, and then you're trying to revamp them, whether it's by reworking them, whether it's by taking them out of landfills and then selling them to a public that does want to utilize them, that more or less is a form of waste management. So it's really about finding brands, styles, and quality items.
Getting these secondhand items to the public isn't the only sustainable aspect that Clarendon partakes in. When sourcing clothes, they even use disregarded rice bags.
One thing that we do is when we go picking, we have these like rice bags, right? And a lot of the times we'd see people toss them out. So we decided, hey, let's do our own little DIY project and turn these rice bags into bubble mailers. I think just as a whole, just like our whole business model really does help with sustainability. We're buying old used pieces that don't have to go through the whole process of being dyed, sewn back together, and it's allowing old pieces to get a new life again.
Now that we know that shopping secondhand significantly prevents the waste of materials, what does a regular Clarendon shopper have to say about it?
I like shopping at the Clarendon Trading Company because there's just a lot of variety, but ultimately I do see that there are benefits to buying secondhand as it's sustainable, and when I buy and wear used clothing, I'm helping to keep textile waste out of the landfills. I like to go pretty much thrift anywhere and everywhere that I can find vintage clothing. It's just something that is part of my lifestyle. 90% of the clothing that I wear, and that's not an exaggeration, I would say 90% of the clothing that I wear is thrifted or secondhand. Especially with mass production, there's a lot of waste being generated. There's definitely more being produced than there is things that are needed.
Studies have shown that 60% of clothes made worldwide are made from synthetic materials, such as polyester, nylon, and acrylic, which are all forms of plastic. When thrown away, they often sit in landfills for hundreds of years, if not forever. By Clarendon trading, reusing, and reselling clothes, they positively contribute to the decrease in textile demand.
Ultimately, I think it's more accessible because it's cheaper. Pretty much anyone and everyone can buy secondhand clothing. You know, even if you're not going to a curated vintage store, you can walk into a Valley Village or Salvation Army and just put together an outfit. You know, it's accessible, it's affordable, sustainable.
One of the best parts about shopping at Clarendon is that even if sustainability isn't your focus when shopping, it's always a factor, and a great one at that.
I always like to think, hey, I mean, this could be in a landfill right now, but now it's on my back, I get to use it, and chances are when I'm done with it, someone will think it's just as cool as me, and then it'll be used for generations and generations.
I wonder if it will ever be possible to completely get rid of new clothing and only shop vintage or used clothing.
After a certain point, I think new clothing will need to be made. But I also think social media can be a powerful tool to help push sustainable clothing. It's right in everyone's hands, making it way easier to make an impact.
Absolutely. And by the way, during COVID-19, and even after, there are plenty of vintage store apps where you can buy these clothing from the safety of your own home.
Right now, it's young adults who are really pushing for this change. According to Teen Vogue, young people are adopting secondhand clothing 2.5 times faster than all other age groups. If you put that into perspective, a single shirt is made of 2,700 liters of water. Just think about how much damage this is causing to the environment.
Yeah, at least the youth are doing their part by buying secondhand clothing, though.
Yeah, and I think the hype with thrifting is to find unique pieces. Plus, it's a cheaper way to jump on the whole vintage bandwagon. Do you own any thrifted clothes?
I do. Effes and Frank and the Black Market are amongst my favorite secondhand spots in Toronto. Some of my favorite pieces were once worn before, kind of like my jacket.
We've come to the end of Ryerson University's segment of the Global News Relay. My biggest takeaway is that every effort counts. The hardest part is to get people to see the impact they can make by being conscious and knowing what's out there to really helps.
I've learned that I may not be the only one who holds anxieties and fears concerning the future of our planet. It would really worry me when I would think if one person like myself could actually make an impact. However, after watching these stories today, I feel empowered and most importantly, informed, knowing that small changes can make the world of a difference. We'd like to thank our professor, Marian Kumi and Brian Withers, and our peers, and we'd like to thank you for watching today. Stay tuned because the Global News Relay will continue with segments from other universities around the world.
Wherever you're watching from, we hope that you'll remember, even the smallest act can make a difference to the environment.
From Ryerson University in Toronto, Canada, I'm your host, Anna Ashite.
And I'm Marie-Pierre Surprenant. Bye.
Thank you.
Now we join Marie from Ryerson University. Hi, Marie.
Hi.
It seems that coronavirus has affected some of the environmentally conscious choices people are making. More people are using cloth bags instead of plastic bags to try to protect the environment. However, do you observe any changes in such behavior under the pandemic?
Yeah, I think a lot of rules have changed. People aren't allowed in Canada right now to use their own reusable bags for fear of contamination. So people have been having to use plastic bags. That in a lot of bulk stores are finding themselves having to use plastic bags instead of reusable containers.
Yeah, so actually Hong Kong is not unusual practice for people to bring their own containers, but the trend is also coming. But some stores have stopped people from bringing their own containers. What problems do people face when trying to carry their own containers in stores in Canada?
They just don't let you in the door if you have your own containers. I think a lot of people are feeling upset about how much plastic is being used, but at the same time, they're also just trying to keep people safe. So
Yeah, so actually generally some stores are offering discounts for people who bring their own cups. So without the pandemic, do you think discounts can be an incentive attracting people to bring their own containers?
yeah, I think it's a great incentive. And I think it might push those people who think it's too much of a fuss to use their own containers to maybe try it.
Yeah, thank you, Marie.
Thank you. So next, let's welcome Texas State University for the next chat. Hi, Jaden.
Hi, how's it going?
Hi. Universities in the US all have a spring break in mid-March. That was really when things got disrupted in Texas, right? So things were pretty normal until around spring break. Please tell us more about the moment when you realized COVID-19 could potentially change how you did things.
Yes, well, essentially, so the newspaper on campus, we reported essentially, we got information that there were 4 students in quarantine around the time where COVID-19 really in America was starting to surface, to where there was a lot of widespread concern. So when it got close to campus, when we found out that students were in quarantine, they weren't necessarily confirmed to have COVID-19, the virus, but they were in quarantine due to traveling or whatever the case was. Essentially, they were in quarantine. So at that point, when we reported that, the entire campus, and after that, there was a domino effect of things getting canceled, and our spring break got extended another week. And when we got into spring break, then we realized that okay, maybe this thing is gonna extend even longer, right? And from that point, we got the news that our classes will be moved online, and then it got prolonged to this entire semester. So it was really a whirlwind, but it really was rooted in when we found out that there were students in quarantine.
I see. So what exactly has changed since then, like other than the spring break being extended, and have people really adjusted well?
Right. Well, I think there are a few different things. I think one, obviously, like the rest of the world, is that you see a lot of Zoom meetings now with no more face-to-face instruction. So there's been an adjustment to people who didn't sign up for online classes, having to move online to Zoom to take their classes. So I think that's been a big adjustment that some people have adjusted well and some haven't. The university adopted a quote-unquote pass-fail system where students can request that at the end of the semester if they feel that they didn't meet certain requirements and they feel that the circumstances of COVID-19 prohibited them from being successful in class. They can opt into that. I think also you see a lot of people who've lost jobs, and when they've lost their jobs, that trickles over into not being able to pay rent at a certain apartment. So you've seen that dynamic too, where students are really just really trying to make ends meet and make the best of what the situation is too. And you see the same thing with professors having to adjust to this online class period. A lot of people who are used to doing things face to face.
I see. So what do you think will come next for the students at Texas State University? Will you have classes in person or online this summer? And how about when the next school year starts? What do you think might happen then? Might some students stay home or change universities or even take a year off?
Well, the university announced that this upcoming summer 2 semester, so starting in July, and the fall semester, it will be planning for face-to-face instruction. Now, obviously, those things could change due to COVID-19, and everybody's aware of that. But I do think, as far as what's going to happen, I do think that if circumstances as far as online classes are prolonged, you will see the university has already announced too that they're expecting a drop in enrollment of people coming in. You have international students who wouldn't be able to make it here, and so on and so forth. So, and a lot of students, they pay for that face-to-face instruction, that one-on-one, in class. So you'll see a lot of students that may not return. They may decide to take a semester off, in my opinion, due to everything that's going on. It's a lot more difficult in the fall semester. That's a huge adjustment. You're talking about, this semester, we've been online for about a month and a half. Really since March, right? So the fall semester, you're talking about from August to December. That's a long period of time to be online. And I do think that a lot of students, the university is anticipating that drop in enrollment, but you will see a lot of students who likely won't return because if COVID-19 calls for the university to stay online, right? But if things move accordingly to face-to-face instruction, I do think that the university may, there will be some adjustments that obviously need to be made, because you can't just bring 40,000 students back to campus at once. So there will have to be some type of plan put together to sort of make sure that's done in a safe manner. True.
What else changed at the university? Like student media or social life or like student work?
Yeah, so for student media, it's been really tough. I mean, you're talking about reporting, really, everything's really virtual. And then also there are things that you have to go out for and report. So you're potentially, putting yourself at risk of contracting COVID-19. So I think, it's been tough, a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of, communication, virtually. It's key because, journalism, our field is based on communication, right? We're so accustomed to getting out, being able to talk to people for stories, getting to know people, their lives, their families, so on and so forth. Well, not saying that that's not possible under current conditions, but it is a lot more difficult. Also, not being able to be in a newsroom, with all your colleagues and doing the stuff that you love to do. So I think that's the biggest thing. And same thing for all the other organizations. It's just having to move online and do things on Zoom. It's a lot more difficult, but at the same time, it's, no one asked for this to happen. These are things that are out of our control. So you just got to kind of make the best of the situation. I think that's what a lot of organizations have done.
Yeah. So what do you miss most about reporting from a campus?
I definitely miss just more of that person-to-person interaction. For me, being able to go out and take photos and then go talk to people after and get their information. And then, being able to go to professors that I trust and respect to get their perspective on certain things. And like I said, it really is just rooted in that person-to-person interaction. I really do miss being able to see all the students on campus, see what's going on, talk to them, and all those things. So I would say that's the biggest thing, is that person-to-person interaction.
You see, same. Thank you for your sharing. Thank you, Jaden.
All right, thank y'all so much.
Okay, so thank you, Jaden. Next, we have Baylor University from the United States.
On Lariat TV News today, in our special edition newscast for Global News Relay, we'll share stories with you about how COVID-19 has altered life in Waco and beyond.
This newscast will highlight how Baylor's light continues to shine as coronavirus takes its toll on the world. We'll give you an inside look into how Baylor's organizations are serving the community and spreading positivity in the midst of the pandemic.
COVID-19 is a complex virus that we're still learning about. In this story, we'll speak with a Baylor student who is asymptomatic for COVID-19. However, he's experienced loss of taste and smell. We also talk to the public health district and hear about the difficulty of tracking people with coronavirus.
In sports, one Baylor Bear saw his dreams of pole vaulting in the 2020 Olympics dashed when the games were postponed. Casey Lightfoot was slated to trade the green and gold for red, white, and blue to represent the United States in the Tokyo Olympics this summer.
Good afternoon and welcome to Lariat TV News Today. I'm Sarah Gill reporting from the heart of Baylor University's campus in Waco, Texas.
And I'm Julia Lorenz coming to you from San Diego, California. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to bring you a special edition newscast as part of Global News Relay.
This event brings together students from universities all across the globe in a newscast focused on how COVID-19 has altered life in Waco and abroad. Our first story is how Baylor's light continues to shine as coronavirus takes its toll on the world.
LTVN's Grace Smith joins us from her hometown of Boerne, Texas, to share how Baylor's organizations have turned this time of crisis into an opportunity to serve.
COVID-19 hasn't stopped Baylor from using its resources to help others around the world. One organization I spoke with is supplying nearly 500,000 starving children across the globe with a boxed meal every day. While the COVID-19 pandemic halted activity on campus, it certainly did not stop the university's light from shining bright throughout the Waco community and beyond.
Right now as the university, I think really kind of leaning into our Christian mission to love our neighbors as ourselves.
Jeremy Everett, the founder and executive director of the Baylor Collaborative on Hunger and Poverty, spoke with me about how his team created a curbside meal program once 200 Texas school districts announced they were going to close due to the virus.
Our team propped up a website and began to work with those school districts to be able to find out how they could serve meals to kids even when the kids were going to be out of school. Where kids essentially could just drive up to a given, like a school or a nonprofit organization or even like a church parking lot and pick up a meal and take it home.
The team also is in partnership with the U.S. Department of Agriculture and has in works a program called Meals to You, where boxes of food will be shipped to kids who live in rural areas across the nation.
We have this firm belief that hunger and poverty are too big for any one organization or any one sector to address by themselves, and that it takes a collaborative approach. So to be able to see kind of that theory come to life and yield millions of meals for kids around the country is that's pretty special.
We either fall on our faith or we fall from our faith, and I've just seen so many people step into and really depend upon our faith.
Dr. Jeremy Vickers, the Associate Vice President of External Affairs at Baylor, tells me how their team stepped up during the pandemic.
We want Baylor and Waco to be like brothers and sisters, not separate but together. We have a vision that we want to paint the town green and gold.
Will you talk about the initiative that your team took in response to COVID-19?
So when the opportunity to move online, and by opportunity I mean crisis, we saw an opportunity to partner with Waco ISD to create some inspiration and help those students and their families just continue to be encouraged to read.
Keep learning, keep reading. A campaign encouraging literacy during COVID-19. A series of videos are posted on the Solid Gold Neighbor Facebook page. Weekly posts feature Baylor and Waco community leaders reading their favorite children's book. And these are just two examples of organizations within Baylor University that have shifted their resources to serve in the fight against COVID-19. For Lariat TV News, reporting for Global News Relay, I'm Grace Smith.
Sewing machines have become an essential during this pandemic as they've been used to make masks and other protective garments. I interviewed a senior designer and the directors of the Baylor Fashion Show. Now let's take a look to see how the fashion industry is changing.
As we're all at home social distancing to help stop the spread of COVID-19, our lives have changed drastically. And that's no exception for the Baylor Fashion Show, which has been canceled.
It's really disappointing that we worked so hard and really had this plan that didn't work out. But I think in the same way, I'm really excited because it's just forcing us to look at this and be so intensely creative. But I think that we can tell their stories more fully now that they're not just limited to a runway.
Designer Lauren James is going through the obstacles of creating her senior collection from home and is missing some of the resources she had access to at the Baylor studio.
The space that we had in the lab at Waco and the different supplies that they offered us, and like we have industrial machines there which are like so nice, and so relearning like how to use my little home sewing machine has definitely been tricky. And I kind of like set up, we have like a little extra room in our house, and so set up a little home studio and got to like bring my table and my sewing machines home from Waco.
As we're all adjusting to this new normal, Lauren's finding new ways to get input on her collection aside from her peers.
It is sad, like, not being around your peers and especially like your classmates, because I feel like you just collaborate and we inspire each other and we bounce off of each other like so much. So my mom, it's funny, she like knows nothing about sewing, but she tries her best to understand me.
While maneuvering through this pandemic, Alex Davis, a co-director of the show, believes the future of fashion is changing.
It's interesting to watch like the industry itself, because a lot of shows are supposed to be happening right now. So I've been looking at a lot of that, just kind of seeing like how designers in the industry are kind of adjusting to that. I think it'll just be something that we'll all be able to relate to, like that time fashion completely changed. There's so many things changing in the industry, and even all the design houses coming together to sew masks and stuff. Like, I think the industry is going to shift a lot.
My theme is celebration. I wanted people to feel celebrated in my clothes, and like life is worth celebrating every day, no matter like what celebration you're celebrating.
Let's bring Lauren's collection to life and live every day in celebration, even throughout this pandemic. For Larry TV News, reporting for Global News Relay, I'm Julia Lorenz.
COVID-19 has most of the world in a state of panic. Regardless of shelter-in-place orders, many people are choosing to stay home due to a fear of getting infected. There are millions of cases, and chances are you may not realize you have the coronavirus and unknowingly spread it to others. Let's hear from one Baylor student who has an asymptomatic case of COVID-19. Coughing, fever, and shortness of breath are some of the most common symptoms of COVID-19. But how do you know if you have it if you're asymptomatic? Baylor junior Tim Irwin tested positive for coronavirus and only experienced one symptom, a loss of taste and smell.
I woke up and just couldn't taste at all, and couldn't smell either. Within a couple of days, I was like, I've never had it last this long, and I've never had a complete lack of taste.
After hearing that a loss of taste and smell could be a symptom of COVID-19, Irwin got tested.
Mr. Irwin, the test that we did yesterday for COVID-19 did return positive.
Asymptomatic is a concern, and that's why we want people to stay at home, because you may be at risk at passing this on to other people and just not realize it, because you are not, having symptoms, or you don't have those classic symptoms like a fever or difficulty breathing.
A loss of taste and smell causes all food to lose its flavor. Irwin describes eating in one word: boring.
It's just a chore now. Like, you have to eat to stay alive, and like no matter what I eat, it's going to taste exactly the same. So I've been eating healthier, which is nice.
With COVID-19 comes one common concern. Did you unknowingly infect someone?
I don't think at this point I've infected anyone, and if I have infected anyone, they haven't gotten any symptoms. Certainly something I was worried about early on, because you only hang out with the people you like the most. I don't want those people getting corona.
Irwin has been cleared of COVID-19 since April 1st, but the virus left some damage.
There's people that just refuse to be around me, just won't be in the same room as me, still out of fear.
His sense of taste and smell are still gone.
I really hope it comes back. Might not.
Stay-at-home orders are being lifted, but COVID-19 will continue to leave a lasting impact.
Even though we're lessening the restrictions, you still need to be aware that it's out there. Social distancing is still the new norm. That wearing a mask or a face covering is still the new norm.
COVID-19 is a complex virus that doctors are still trying to understand. It's important to not live in fear, but still take the proper precautions to navigating this new normal. For Lariat TV News, reporting for Global News Relay, I'm Sarah Gill.
The whole world is in a state of shock, especially young adults who are planning on graduating and starting a new chapter of their lives. LTVN's Igor Stepchinsky interviewed two Dallas-Fort Worth entrepreneurs. Igor, can you tell us a little more about this?
That's right. As the spring semester was cut short, so was students' access to priceless on-campus resources. Thankfully, one platform is doing what they can to help with anything from jump-starting careers, eating healthy, to even expert videos on dating during COVID-19.
March 7th, University of Washington. Coronavirus shut down its first large U.S. college.
Since then, over 4,000 did the same, impacting almost 26 million students. Graduations were canceled, internships were scrapped, and jobs crashed, leaving young adults coping with severe loss. Thankfully, 2 DFW leaders are lending a helping hand just one click away.
In spite of the physical distance that we all need to take as a precaution right now, this really is a time for us to lean on everyone in our community.
Alex Kean and Greg Weatherford II are co-founders of the nonprofit Young Leaders for Change. Their newest campaign, Let's Thrive Now, is a one-stop shop for young adults desperate for reliable information.
We kind of see it as being able to provide a digital hug. We said, what can we do? And that's when we put our heads together and said, you know what? I think one of the best things you can provide people in a time of uncertainty is accurate information.
What started off as a 30-day service challenge is now a platform of wellness during a time when the world is sick. The website covers an expansive variety of topics with the help of knowledgeable people, some of which are Baylor alumni.
I saw so many of my friends get their lives essentially turned upside down. We really just wanted to find a way to get information and guidance out to young people that they could rely on, because although there is a lot of information out there, it can sometimes be hard as a young person to know what really is the best guide you should refer to.
It's another journey of 2 dedicated leaders putting in time and effort to help you thrive now.
The one thing that I would tell young people to really do is to first think about their mindset, because that really does control everything.
I really hope that young people can really take this as an opportunity to really recenter their lives, take this as a chance to improve and better themselves in some areas that they really have been wanting to work on for a long time.
For Lariat TV News, reporting for Global News Relay, I'm Igor Stepchinsky.
With the majority of Americans working from home, one of the biggest things that COVID-19 is affecting in the United States is the working class. What will a global pandemic do to a capitalistic economy, and how are business owners responding? LTVN's April Odo is reporting from her home in Corona, California, and has the details of what you need to know.
As economists fear a possible recession as the outcome of COVID-19, I spoke with CEO of Turnkey Marketing, Eric Ryerson, and the Associate Professor and Chair of the Department of Economics at Baylor University, Charles North, in order to see what these experts had to say about how this will impact our economy. COVID-19 has made many adjustments to the way in which we are living our lives. But one of the biggest things that it is impacting is the United States economy. What does this mean for Americans?
I think it's, we got to find a way to get the economy running, because any of this stuff just treats the problem, it's like the symptoms and actually not the actual cause. I think we're already in a recession. So this one I think is actually worse than 2008. Somehow you can't not eat, and you can't not do business. So you got to find some way to be able to do business safely.
With the majority of Americans behind closed doors at home, the working class is struggling to manage business, leading to potential economic damage.
The longer that shelter in place is in place, and the longer that we have restrictions on economic activity, the higher the cost of those restrictions on the economy are going to be, and probably the lesser they will have benefit for saving lives. So there's this sort of declining benefit to stopping the disease. There's an increasing damage to continuing it. We do know that we're seeing huge negative economic consequences of the shelter-in-place orders and other kinds of shutdowns that are going on. So how you balance people's livelihoods, especially low-income people, is really very difficult.
For Lariat TV News, reporting for Global News Relay, I'm April Odo.
Sliding into sports, there's a Baylor athlete who is slated to compete in the 2020 Olympics, but his dreams are now dashed as those games were postponed. LTVN's Nate Smith is at his house in Porter, Texas, to give us more.
People on nearly every corner of the globe train endlessly in hopes of one day getting to compete in the Olympic Games. But what does a future Olympian do when there are no Olympics to train for? I caught up with Baylor's Casey Lightfoot to find out.
Baylor's Casey Lightfoot is one of the country's premier collegiate pole vaulters, and he was poised to secure himself a spot on Team USA for this summer's Tokyo Olympics. But unfortunately, not even future Olympians are immune to the effects that COVID-19 has on our lives. Although the postponement of the games didn't come without its fair share of disappointment, Lightfoot has a uniquely positive outlook on the situation.
With anything, you got to find the positives, you know? I mean, I think about it as I have another year to prepare for the Olympics. But for me, I'm still young. I'm only 20 years old. So, I mean, my body still definitely has places to grow, and I can still mature more and get stronger. And I think I can fix so many things in the vault because it's never perfect.
Lightfoot holds the Baylor record for indoor pole vault, in addition to being this year's Big 12 indoor pole vault champion, as well as being named to the conference all-indoors team. And even with all the accolades, it's safe to say that the combination of early season success and a global pandemic aren't going to keep him from improving on his craft.
You can't just stop training. I mean, you want to stay at the top level, you gotta stay at peak performance pretty much all the time, which is hard. And I mean, right now it's even harder because, well, I mean, we don't have the facilities to train at. We can't use anything that we do at school. So I mean, I'm at home right now just trying to do the old home workouts.
Lightfoot has gotten the opportunity to wear the red, white, and blue before in events like the IAAF World Championships. And it's that taste of getting to compete for Team USA that keeps him coming back for more.
Whenever you actually get to put on the uniform and go out there and jump and just do what you like to do, I mean, it's a dream come true, really. I mean, the only other one that I really want right now is to be on the Olympic team, you know?
The waiting game has become a large part of everyone's life during the coronavirus outbreak. But for Lightfoot, the wait may not seem so long.
Thankfully, it was only postponed. It could have been canceled, and then we would have had to wait 4 years. So, we only have to wait 1. I mean, that's nothing. I've been waiting my whole life, so what's 1 more year?
For Lariat TV News, reporting for Global News Relay, I'm Nate Smith.
The sports industry generates millions of dollars annually from major universities, and the cancellation of spring athletics has rocked not just coaches and players, but sports media and the community as a whole. I talked to multiple Bears and got their perspective on what the last month and a half has looked like. Baylor baseball and softball coaches Steve Rodriguez and Glenn Moore saw their successful seasons end just weeks into the year.
I know this is bigger than softball, and I try to keep that in perspective, but from a softball standpoint, it was devastating because this team was ready to reclaim the position they had been in for quite a few years, and we were well on our way, I think.
It became pretty frustrating for our guys just because, you know, we finally just got started and everything was, we were feeling pretty good about ourselves, as I think a lot of teams were. And then all of a sudden, you know, it gets pulled out from under you, and now you're like, okay, now what?
And from a player's standpoint, the cancellation of the season was just as devastating.
I actually will never forget the moment where I learned that everything was canceled for the rest of our season. It was really difficult. It felt like a really big loss, and it was even harder not to be able to stand next to my teammates and my coaches whenever we learned that was happening.
And while all spring sport athletes were granted an extra year of eligibility, that can never erase what could have been.
Doing it another year doesn't change the things that we lost with this year. Like, I'll never have this team back. It's a nice opportunity. It's really awesome that they decided to do it, and I'm so grateful. Like, we are very lucky that we were given that chance. But it doesn't give us back the things that we lost from this year.
Aside from players and coaches, the pandemic has even taken a toll on local sports media. For example, Baylor sports talk show host Paul Catalina stared job loss in the face.
I'm okay. I mean, like, it's fine. It's just that those kind of things, like, it'll hit you. Oh, my God, I don't have a job.
And while Catalina recently joined the new Sikkim 365 radio crew to try and get back to normal, he says that sports will forever be changed.
Whenever COVID-19 is gone and there's a vaccine and all that, everything we do will be different. You know, are you gonna hand a hot dog down the aisle the same way? Probably not. You know, like, what is that gonna mean? There's so many things that are gonna come out of this.
Sports as we know it will truly never be the same. For Lariat TV News, reporting for Global News Relay, I'm Drake Toll. And that's all from this special Global News Relay edition of Baylor's Lariat TV News Today.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
To watch more of our work, head to BaylorLariat.com. Stay safe and Sikkim Bears. Julia. I'm the executive producer of Lariat TV News, which is the student organization broadcast for Baylor. I'm here with Sarah. She is a reporter. We co-anchored the GNR newscast together.
Yes, I'm Sarah.
Hi, Julia.
I'm a broadcast
Hi,
reporter and anchor. Hi.
Okay, so how did you produce the newscast without being in a studio and without the resources normally available because of the coronavirus?
Yeah, definitely. It was hard because usually we have a studio and we're in the newsroom with everybody around. We have writers, reporters, cameras, and all of that was kind of put on a halt. So a lot of our production was used with our phones, and we had to download the video editing softwares on our computers, and there's a lot of video conferences and communication because we're not all together in the same location. We were spread all across the United States, so we really had to get unique and creative with the way we produced the newscast just because we weren't in our normal location. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, I think since I also co-anchored the newscast, I think one of the biggest challenges was just making sure that we knew exactly like how it was going to go, because we didn't want to get to post-production and have any issues and need to reshoot anything. And so we wanted to make sure that everything would flow together. So we made sure and we recorded, like, even if Julia wasn't talking, we still recorded her just like nodding her head just so that we had that, because normally you would have that. So we had to just like think and really make sure that we were critically like thinking and in aspects of editing.
Yeah, so how did you find stories and perform them during the pandemic and under quarantine?
So obviously, breaking news was the coronavirus, and everybody's in the same situation. We're all quarantining, and with all of this newness comes so many questions, and that's what our main goal was, to search and find answers to those questions. Like, what are our classmates talking about? What are people in our hometowns talking about? And how can we help bring answers? So we interviewed the public health district from our local university location, but we also talked to sports directors and anybody you can think of how the coronavirus has changed life as we know it. I interviewed the director of the fashion show that usually happens at school here in Waco. However, because of everything happening, that was no longer able to happen. Sarah had a really unique story. Do you want to explain that?
Yes. So actually, through mutual connections, I found a Baylor student who has an asymptomatic case of COVID-19, which I know, like, even in the news, it's just like asymptomatic cases are really kind of just like a mystery. Nobody really knows. And so it was really cool getting to interview him. And but that was also a challenge, just because since asymptomatic cases are pretty much a mystery, it's kind of hard to report on it whenever there's not a lot of answers. But it was really interesting, and it was great getting to share his story.
Yeah. So what was your favorite part of the newscast and working with your team while not physically being together?
I would say my favorite part is the communication that we were able to achieve. Obviously, being not anywhere close in proximity was a huge challenge, but we were able to work through that. We were on the phone and video conferences so often, and without having a teleprompter or having a camera person or any of the normal things we have, we were able to kind of figure out how we're gonna achieve while not being in our normal studio, because I just had my iPhone. I didn't even have a video camera or a DSLR. I was working with the bare basics, and I set up a little home studio and set up all my bar stool boxes to put my camera on and grabbed a makeup light to make it work. But we were able to just really work through it with teamwork, you know?
Yes, I would say my favorite part was definitely, I don't know, just like the final product, like the making of it was awesome, but getting to see a final product and like all our communication, all our hard work, like coming together and coming to life, that was really awesome. And even just like, I feel like a challenge really can bring a team closer together, just because you are in close communication and you want to make it work. And so you're going to work together to make it happen.
Thank you. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. So next we have Fresno State from California.
Hello from Fresno, California. I'm Ashley Goldsmith.
And I'm Cassie Lopez. This is a strange time all over the world. When we first started planning this global newscast in January with students from 15 universities from around the world, COVID-19 was just a blip on the map.
Now it's all anyone is talking about. Our original plan was to bring you stories of young people, Gen Zers, making an impact on the climate crisis. And we still plan to do that.
But many of the stories from our global news relay universities have focused on the coronavirus.
The coronavirus, or COVID-19, has made an impact on air quality all over the world. We've seen a dramatic improvement in recent weeks. Satellite data from NASA shows a 30% drop in air pollution over major metropolitan cities, especially in the northeastern United States. Other parts of the world have seen similar reductions. The air quality improvement coincides with lockdowns and shelter-in-place orders because of the coronavirus pandemic. That means fewer cars on the roads, which cuts down on emissions.
The coronavirus has made more people interested in buying electric vehicles. Vincent Automobile Solutions in the UK asked people about their post-pandemic buying plans. They say people are noticing the connection between travel restrictions and improvement in air pollution. Because of the improved air quality, 45% of the people they surveyed said they would consider buying an electric vehicle at the same time. 17% said they'd already decided that their next vehicle would be electric.
Air quality is a big concern in the Central Valley, especially for those with asthma. Jay Stilley and Jonathan Garcia Espinoza show us how commuting around Fresno is not only harmful to people with asthma, but it's also worsening the valley's air quality.
In the age of pollution and people, just breathing can be such a luxury. 21-year-old Moses Espinoza has asthma, and when he says the air quality is bad, he feels it.
This affects me really quick because I'll get tired in a heartbeat because I know my asthma is already a setback on me, and now with the air quality right here is making it at least 2 times more worse on me to be able to keep up with everyone else.
Air quality is always a huge concern for Fresno residents, especially those with asthma. And with the changing climate, people like Espinoza feel like now is the time to do something about the air.
Honestly, I think it has to do with a lot of these factories that release so much gas out into the air, and so much things that we need to worry about that, such as like cars, older cars that release so much like gas particles into the air, stuff like that.
In recent years, young people from around the world have voiced their concerns about the changes occurring in the climate. Gilbert Garcia is a Fresno State criminology major. He is one of many people in the Central Valley who is worried about air quality. Even though he doesn't have health concerns right now, he's thinking about the future.
But for sure, I know it can hurt me in the long run, but short term, it's not really,
Garcia is concerned that commuting by car, bus, or motorcycle makes things even worse for people with asthma. Even students driving around and out onto campus adds to pollution. Garcia says he's a part of the problem.
I thought about it, taking the bus, but sometimes after school I have work and I need to, get there fairly quick.
But what do we do to fix the air quality and help those with asthma? Fresno State geography professor Sean Boyd explains.
The best possible outcome would be for an aggressive conversion from vehicles that burn fossil fuels to vehicles that use electricity, because then you would be putting less carbon into the atmosphere because you're not burning fossil fuel.
Garcia and Espinoza also recommend that citizens in Fresno make changes to their lifestyles to help improve the environment.
Maybe go more eco-friendly. Instead of going to campus, have more, online classes, stay at home.
Because some of us are still really dying to this day because of this condition. And it's something that will never go away. You just got to try to take care of as much as possible and really look into it, because one day you never know. You might end up in the same situation.
A few simple changes to the way we commute can improve the climate and the lives of people with asthma. With Chase Dilley and Jonathan Garcia, Global News Relay.
People can help lessen the impact on the climate by taking the bus, walking, or riding a bike. and that will help clear the air for people who suffer from asthma. Vehicle traffic is blamed for many of the pollution problems in California's Central Valley.
Scientists say that pollution is also causing severe climate change and global warming. The 30-year average temperature in Fresno is 76.9 degrees Fahrenheit, but over the past 5 years, the average temperature has increased to 78.7 degrees, growing up almost 2 full degrees. Scientists blame urbanization. Climate change model projections tell us we can expect dramatic changes over the next decade, and we've already experienced them, such as drought-increased wildfires, more severe storms, decline in air quality, and the loss of native species. People who live in the rural town of Avenel in Central California are blaming a nearby landfill for polluting the air and causing health problems. I talked with a woman who is working to bring her community together in an effort to protect their health.
At the Veterans Memorial Hall in Avenel, City Council and the Avenel Landfill team members held a meeting to answer questions residents had about the Avenel landfill. Residents are complaining the landfill is releasing a strong, unforgiving odor, causing the town to constantly smell. The odor from the landfill is polluting the air, which has been causing more health problems for people living in the Avenel area. The residents are demanding the landfill to be shut down. Residents felt that their questions were being unanswered. Erica Garza graduated from Fresno State and is an international journalist. She's the activist and face behind the effort to get the landfill shut down.
In November, we got pictures of medical waste being dumped at the Avenel landfill, and that caused concern, as well as dead chickens.
Garza reached out to Miguel Alatorre, who is a community organizer and policy advocate for Green Action. He helped Garza and her team gather the community. Alatorre agrees with Garza that the landfill must go.
Without the municipal waste landfill there, that Avenel will become a ghost town and will cease to exist, but that's simply not the truth. Just looking at their numbers in terms of their revenue and the profit that dump produces, it is not enough to risk the health of the residents of Avenel.
They chanted in Spanish, "You see it, you feel it, the people are present." They held up signs that said, "Undo the damage, the people united, your trash is not welcomed."
We need to elect new city officials. We need officials that truly represent the city, that truly represent the people of Avenel. We need to educate the people of the dangers of having a toxic pollution dump 400 feet from their house.
Garza is upset with how things have changed in her hometown.
And I left with my heart broken because I could not believe that my hometown smelled like that. I had never smelled that smelled anywhere.
Garza says even though she no longer lives in Avenel, her heart never left home. That's why she's here fighting the fight.
And I do it with a lot of love because I want my people to have a true chance to clean air and a true chance to a healthy life. Because without clean air, it's impossible to think that these people are going to have a healthy life.
She started a petition to remove the landfill completely from Avenel and replace it with an attraction that can bring more opportunity for the Avenel community.
We had 3 people start the petition, and we have close to 1,500 signatures now.
Garza and the Avenel community are trying to bring back clean air to the town of Avenel.
Avenel is known as one of the most polluted and economically disadvantaged areas in the San Joaquin Valley. According to the Center for Biological Diversity, the organization helped the town stop an illegal permit for a power plant 9 years ago. They haven't had much success with the landfill.
The coronavirus has taken the nation by storm, including here in California's Central Valley. On April 29th, there were more than 520 cases of COVID-19 in Fresno County alone, a fraction of the more than 1 million cases in the U.S. Wyatt Babb and Peter Lopez talked with Valley residents who shared their thoughts about the pandemic.
Isaac Rodriguez, a pediatric specialist with the Community Regional Medical Center, seems to be optimistic when it comes to California's handling of COVID-19.
I think we did a pretty good job with it. I saw some graphs how California had done pretty good to flatten the curve with the whole quarantine process. I think a lot of people took it pretty serious enough to where it made an impact on the spread of the virus.
As a result, Fresno parks are now closed to the general public. CSU Fresno alumnus and probation technician Michael Dela Cruz believes his generation isn't taking it very well.
Oh, they're not doing great at all. I mean, if you look at social media, you see everyone all of a sudden going out and, taking walks on parks and, trying to go to fast food places just to go get something to eat because they can't physically stay at home without, feeling like they're trapped. I feel like with society and the younger generation, they're so in tune to this belief that they're so free to do whatever they want because it's America, that for somebody to tell them no, they can't do that, they feel like they're not in control of their lives.
Reporting from Fresno State, I'm Wyatt Babb with Peter Lopez, Global News Relay.
Before COVID-19 happened, youth activists around the world were joining forces demanding a greener and more sustainable planet. Many were inspired by Sweden's climate activist Greta Thunberg, who led the charge. Groups like 99 Roots and the Sunrise Movement have organized at the local level to address smoggy air and contaminated water. Natalie Jones and Sammy Cortez have the story.
Jasmine Levia is an organizer for 99 Roots. It's a youth-based group that is raising awareness about the climate crisis in the Central Valley.
Youth will share stories about they tell my parents not to wash their clothes with the family's clothes because, it's being sprayed. And
99 Roots helps young people express their frustrations through art.
One of the projects we did, in Atwater, both sites we did zines. They're like DIY, magazines. When we look at people who are fighting to protect water, one of the common motifs is that water is life.
I'm Sammy Cortez. The Sunrise Movement is another group that encourages local government officials to endorse environmentally friendly policies.
The Green New Deal is meant to really revolutionize our economy by creating millions of jobs while going green about it. It's meant to transform our economy in a way that we reduce the climate change.
Members meet every Tuesday in downtown Fresno to brainstorm plans to bring awareness to the climate crisis.
The only way you're ever going to see change, or the only way that anything's ever going to get done here, is if we come together.
Young people throughout the valley working together to address the climate crisis. With Natalie Jones, I'm Sammy Cortez, Global News Relay.
You can find out more about this green new wave at powercalifornia.org/99roots or sunrisemovement.org.
Another group that is actively making a difference in the climate change movement can be found at Fresno State. I talked with 3 members of the campus sustainability club to find out what they're doing to promote greener living.
My name's Marissa Costa.
My name is Michael Mayfield.
My name is Fang.
And I am an environmental science major.
I am a graduated major in environmental science.
My major is geology.
I am the president of the Fresno State Sustainability Club.
There was an outside group that came in called the Climate Center, and I work with their Clean Power Exchange program to help bring solar in the Central Valley. Sustainability is one of those buzzwords that we see all the time.
I would say sustainability is something that is you think about it in the long term.
We're really thinking about not using your resources faster than they come to you.
How we in the club interpreted it, it's mostly actions that allow us to live a lifestyle that can be sustained in the future.
Sustainability in agriculture, which is a really hot topic on our campus. You have a set amount of water. You don't want to be using more water than you have. So it's this idea of kind of realizing what the balance is, how you can just be more mindful about how you're using your resources.
I think Fresno and the Central Valley and this area in general, including our campus, have been working really hard towards creating a more sustainable environment. We've gotten recycle bins on campus, community groups like Citizens Climate Lobby, Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. They all partake in helping inform the public about sustainability.
In terms of the geologic record, we've never seen this much carbon put into our atmosphere and then gone into our oceans. That's completely new. But I think what we need to remember is that we can still make a change.
I've done a lot more research in the products that I do purchase, making sure that they last, making sure that they're coming from sustainable sources, and I just try to keep a conscious mind.
None of us in the club are perfect examples of the ideal human being. We all carry our water bottles and we try to take smaller showers and whatnot, but really the biggest part is just being part of the conversation.
I would just tell other college students that in order to maintain a sustainable lifestyle. You just have to take that first step.
I find that, with my own actions in the club, that I'm able to inspire my friends. Sometimes my friends will tell me, hey, I didn't use a plastic straw today, and that's a very small thing, but those small things add up, and that's the idea about sustainability that we like to spread to people, that small actions do make a difference.
The Sustainability Club continues to meet by Zoom and engage students through things such as their Digital Earth Day event. That's our report from Fresno State. I'm Ashley Goldsmith.
And I'm Cassie Lopez. Now back to Hong Kong Baptist University.
Hi Ashley and Cassidy.
I'm so sorry, we had some technical difficulties, but we are here. Cassidy, are you here with me? Yes, I see you.
Hi. So what strategies did you use on your project to overcome the stay-at-home and shelter order?
Cassidy, go ahead and take that one.
So I think one of the best strategies we've used as a class as a whole is we've helped each other out by getting extra shots, and we've also helped each other out with getting extra sources. And by coming together as a class, I feel like that's what really pushed us and helped us get our stories together.
I see. So we noticed a lot of people in the United States are protesting the stay-at-home order. What effect has that had on the spread of the virus actually?
So I've been doing research on this, and I haven't found specific data on whether or not and how specifically it's furthering the spread. But as you see photos, even just in California where we are, in Los Angeles and on the beaches, there are a lot of people gathering in close quarters without masks and definitely closer than 6 feet apart. So that is in complete opposition to the standards that are set by health officials, and definitely is likely to spread the virus.
I see. What did you learn about climate change that impacted you personally?
For me personally, I learned a lot about air pollution and how much it's impacted not only a person, but a whole community. And that was really eye-opening. I didn't realize how much of an impact it could have on like a whole town, whereas I thought it was just people with like breathing problems and asthma and stuff, but it really is traumatizing to a lot of people, and that was really eye-opening.
I see. So what changes did the university implement to control the effects of the coronavirus?
So Fresno State went to all online learning it's been almost 2 months. I also am a student employee at Fresno State, and so many of us are working remotely. I'd say the biggest change is that they tried to have as many employees work from home. They closed the library eventually and many services, non-essential services on campus, to try to limit contact with other individuals.
I see. Thanks for your sharing.
Yes, thanks for having us.
So, thank you all for being here with us during this special period.
This year is a challenging year for Global News Relay. We stay home rather than in the studio for the show, but we adapt and change our usual practice accordingly. The pandemic has shown us that certain issues can only be solved with global cooperation.
In 2016, at least 55 signatories to the Paris Agreement promised to try to limit global temperature rise to no more than 2 degrees Celsius in this century. That is just one example of such cooperation. And here at Global News Relay, we will continue to work with students around the world to report on the issues that impact all of us. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Stay strong and stay healthy.